Well, our clock on the wall says 6 o'clock and the clock on the computer says 6:01, so I'm gonna call us to order. Call it 6 o'clock. We have 6 out of the 7 members, and I think the 7th will be in here eventually. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to meet with the outside agencies and regional associations that are requesting financial support from the town of Bristol, and that's our main purpose. So we'll go into that. Before we start, I want to remind everyone that at this point this is a information gathering meeting. We're not going to be making any motions. We're not going to be approving or disapproving anything. We're not actually working on a budget proposal. We're just gathering information from these folks who are looking for support from the town in order to bake that into our later on discussions about the budget. So, having said that, I don't think there's anything else. Just to let everyone know, Christina is up in her office. She's going to be running the Zoom meeting. We have at least one agency that the person is not feeling well, and they're going to call into the meeting when their term comes up. And if any members of the public want to call in, Christina will bring them into the meeting and they can watch us because our meetings are riveting.
Paul?
Yes?
I just read my email. There's 2 members.
Okay.
Only one is joined us right now, but there's a second member that may be joining.
Okay.
Okay.
So you'll give me a heads up. I know one is in the second set. I don't know who the other one is, so you'll let me know. I know I think you said it's in Tri-County. Tri-Cap was one of the 2.
Voices Against Violence is the other.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Voice Against Violence.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, and that's the last one. Okay, so that's the last 2 on the list here. Very good. So, having said that, we have a list on. I don't know if it went out to the folks, but we divided the groups. We divided the people into 2 groups in order to try to not make you sit through a 2-hour meeting. So we got 2, 4, 6, 7 groups to talk to from 6 to 7. So let's get started. Katie is first. Is there someone from that organization? I don't think we got anyone called in yet, but if you have a handout, that's great. And if you'd sit there just so you're near by the microphone, so we have you for that. And it's all being videotaped so that at a later date, people want to go on the town's website, the meeting is available.
And stream live, do we have that yet?
It's live on YouTube right now.
And live on YouTube. There you go.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Nikki Shedd. I'm the Restorative Justice Director from Katie in Plymouth. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you very much for having us here tonight and for the $2,000 allocation that you granted to Katie last year. Of note about Katie, we are the region's sole youth substance abuse prevention program. When we look at prevention and we consider why prevention is so important, we know that between the ages of 14 and 18, we call that the addiction pipeline. Our youth in the area are identifying substance misuse and mental health as the 2 things that they're most concerned about in their peer groups and the thing that they want adults to most pay attention to for them. Because of that, the surge that we're seeing right now in mental health issues for teens and also for substance misuse, it's scary, and this is the time when we really need to put monies into place and programs into place to help break that cycle of addiction for teens. So we have to intervene early. Preventing drug use during the teen years also helps to break the cycles of crime. It protects our local children and improves public safety. It contains municipal costs, and it prevents addiction, and it saves lives, as we've seen. 100% of Bristol's allocation is dedicated to our Restorative Juvenile Justice Program. The Katie Restorative Juvenile Justice Program is New Hampshire court accredited and has one of the lowest recidivism rates in the state. Our recidivism rate currently is at 17%. Chief McIntyre and Lieutenant Woodward are strong supporters of Katie, and we value very much their partnership and our ability to serve the youth of Bristol. In the past 16 years, this one program has served over 266 local youth. We've served 18 youth and their families in Bristol alone. The referrals come from the Bristol Police Department, Newfound High School, and Newfound Middle School. We work very closely with the youth in our program, with their families and the victims of juvenile crime to help youth turn their lives around and to repair the harm that has been caused to the victims. Also of note, currently 80% of the youth that we have in our restorative justice program have incarcerated parents. The majority of the youth have mental health diagnoses. 70% are Medicaid eligible, and most have special education identifications. Many of the youth that we have in our program have not received services, and if they don't receive services beyond Katie, they can become on an out-of-district track. Our goal is to intervene early with services so we can keep kids in their home communities. It's better for our kids, and it's better for our taxpayers to keep kids at home. Our top priority is to help local youth make healthy and safe choices, to protect them and to protect our communities, and to make sure that we shelter them from the harm and high costs associated with substance use and juvenile crime. We can only do this with the help and support of our communities. Katie has recently opened an office in Bristol as well, which we'll be using as a jumping off point for our youth programs down in the Newfound region. It's an area that has long been underserved by Katie. We've been up in Plymouth, and we very much want to now turn our focus into the Newfound community. We're also opening what's called an APG, an alternative peer group for youth, that will be solely run out of Newfound. And an alternative peer group is similar to an adult recovery program. We realize that there are no services for kids in this area in terms of clinical and scientific based curriculums to help them with substance misuse. So we're really excited about that program. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Can I just ask where the office is in Bristol?
It's down on Lake Street,
And
right across from the little park there.
oh, okay, in those nice buildings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just wondered.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. We'll be using that to meet with the youth that are referred to us from the high school, from the middle school, and to run that alternative peer group. That'll be all done out of that building.
Great.
When a child enters the restorative justice program, how long is the typical length?
On average, they're with us for about 12 weeks. So we don't have a time when we say to them that they can't be in the program any longer. In fact, I actually like to keep them in as long as I can, because as long as we have them, they're receiving services. We have a lot of kids in our program that tell us that they're not used to having adults that show up for them consistently. So the longer that we can keep them in and keep them connected to adults, the better they're served and the community as well.
You had some data that you were stating. Is that in here? I didn't see it. The percentage of kids whose parents are incarcerated and everything you said after that.
So
It'd be nice. I'd love to have that information somehow.
Sure. The kids, we didn't put the data in there about the kids that are in our program right now that currently have incarcerated parents.
Yeah.
Because that's fluid, obviously, over the course of the year. Right now, 80% of the kids in our program have parents that are incarcerated. And the other stat that I read to you was our recidivism rate, which is 17%. It's one of the lowest in the state.
Yeah.
And then the other was our Medicaid eligible kids. We have there are 70% of our kids are Medicaid eligible.
Okay.
And that 80% has been higher in the past. In past presentations.
Yeah.
The incarceration rate?
Yeah.
Last year it was over 90.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that.
They're good pieces of information to have if people ask you questions. If they ask us questions, that's good information to have. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just have a kind of a question. I don't know how to phrase it actually. How do you, where it says right here, let's say, thought it was very easy to access marijuana, 50.6%. How do you, like the laws are so lenient with marijuana. Okay, so how can you get that across to teenagers that it's bad for the marijuana or start them early when the laws are so lenient? In fact, people are promoting marijuana and vaping and all this other stuff. So more of the marijuana. How do you get that? I mean, that's kind of a contradiction.
And it's a really good question, because that's one of the things that's hardest for us in our work with kids, because kids will come to us because they're using with their parents, so their parents are okay with it. They know that it's something that is natural in their minds, that is grown, and so they don't see anything wrong with it. What happens then is it's really about harm reduction for us. It's education and harm reduction. So we do talk to them, and I'm sure many of you have heard, if you've watched the news, the issues that are currently we're seeing with fentanyl, the different things that now are being cut into marijuana. So we can get at that with the kids, that really that yes, it is a plant, but that doesn't mean that what you're getting is that plant, and so the risks that are associated with that. And then just start to help them understand most of the time their use is some sort of a symptom from something else. Usually it's mental health issues. So working with them to build skills, coping skills, to learn to identify their triggers, to get them involved in things that can serve some of those needs other than a substance. It's getting them reconnected into their community, particularly at school, really getting them integrated back into their school community and something that they care about, whether it's athletics or a club, building a relationship with an adult. Usually the kids that we see that are struggling with substance misuse are completely isolated in their school communities.
Thank you, that was very helpful.
Thanks so much.
Actually, I do have one more question.
Oh, almost got out.
Well, it's interesting that your request hasn't gone up any, even though costs have changed so dramatically everywhere. Is that a real number? I know that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, that is a real number. It is. I mean, obviously we recognize that costs have gone up everywhere,
Yeah.
and we don't want there to be a barrier to receiving help that we can use in our programs for the youth that we serve. So we wouldn't want to do anything that would alienate a
Sure,
donating
fair enough.
agency.
Yep, okay, thanks.
So if you look at the appropriations, do you, as a aggregate, use the total, or Alexandria, do you allot $1,000 to that office, say, and then if there's leftover, or is it total, one total?
It's one total.
It's one total.
Yep.
One total, you mean like the 2,000 that you're asking for all surrounding counties or for all surrounding towns?
Just for, we use that in our catchment area.
Okay.
The majority of the youth that we serve in our program come out of the Newfound region.
Just,
We see we do see youth
but
from.
they could be from various towns, because so many kids from different towns go to our school.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
That was very interesting from this side too.
Yeah, have a safe travel home.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do. Good luck to you.
So next up is CASA. Is there anyone?
There are people in the hall.
Oh,
Can you check for us?
There are
Yeah, thank you.
voices.
Is there anyone from CASA? Yeah, you can come in if you want and sit down here.
yeah, with your, whatever group you're in, you're certainly welcome to come in.
Yeah, the front row seat.
We just have to see if we have enough chairs. So, yes, Christina?
So representatives were told to wait in the lobby, so you may want to have Shannon check every so often to make sure.
Thank you.
That no one's out there.
Gotcha. So just check, there's no one left in the lobby. Is there anyone here from CASA? Okay, so we'll go to the next, which is Day Away. Anyone here from Day Away?
If there's a note down at the bottom, they're not in operation due to COVID, but they'll start
There's
up
no.
in the following year.
Okay, I'm just
$0.
reading off the list.
Okay.
All right, Grafton County Senior Citizens Council. I know we've got someone from that. So could you have a spokesperson come and sit at the table so that, primarily we want you near the microphone so that anyone who wants to go back and look at the tape can hear what you're saying.
Okay, so I'll kick it off and then I'd like to hand it over to Gail. So my name is Kathleen Vasconcelos. I'm the Executive Director of the Grafton County Senior Citizens Council. We operate 8 senior centers, and one of them is here in Bristol, Newfound Area Senior Services, and that's the one that's run by Gail. So I'll give kind of the agency-wide overview, and then Gail can talk from the local perspective. I would also like to note that we have 3 volunteers here with us. They're advisory council members, Aletha, Rosa, and Lillian. Thank you so much for being here and for all you do. So our agency It's our 50th anniversary this year, so we're very excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we began in Lebanon in 1972, and we've expanded over the years, and we now serve residents of every town in Grafton County. So we have a network of services that no other agency in our region provides. We provide services such as home delivered meals, community dining programs in a congregate setting, transportation, outreach and counseling, chore assistance, volunteer opportunities, all for older adults and adults with disabilities. And so last year throughout the county, our whole service area, we provided nearly 180,000 meals. We called our clients, our participants, to check on them, almost 38,000 calls to them, and more than 3,000 rides on our buses. And that is picking up. We had some services that were suspended temporarily due to COVID. We're now fully open and very excited to see people back in our centers and in person, although we do still have online offerings as well. So I will hand it over to Gail for the local perspective, and I'll be available for questions at the end if needed.
Thank you.
That was quick, Kathleen.
Plenty of time for you.
So my name is Gail Shaw, and I'm the director of Newfound Area Senior Center, which is right up on Church Street. And I want to thank you for having us, and thank you for everybody being here. And I've got to put my glasses on. So we always start at the Bristol House of Pizza with dinner, and then visit, and then we come here and we're all happy. So there's lots of things happening with Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, and specifically here at the Newfound Area Senior Center. We're building a scarecrow for the townwide park entry, and we'll highlight Hannaford because Hannaford is a partner of ours. They provide lots of donated food to us, working in hand with the New Hampshire Food Bank. And we appreciate that long partnership with them. I've been here for over 12 years, and they've been a wonderful source of food for us. We're also planning to use our bus locally as sort of a pop-up food truck with the intention of exposing more seniors to what we do as the senior center. So we'll probably start in a subsidized for the elderly and disabled adults apartment complex here in town, and then see how that goes, just to get the word out, sort of, as Kathleen said, bring the centers to the folks at home. And then maybe they can start coming to the center and having less isolation issues. We're also planning an awareness fun and a food event in November. I've spoken with one member of the local fire department, that we'll have like a firehouse chili competition. So we'll do that at the church upstairs in Fellowship Hall on an evening. I'm not sure exactly when, but it'll be challenging, it'll be fun, it'll be competitive, and we'll have prizes. And lots of times various restaurants sponsor that for us in the past. We have a bus here at Newfound, and typically it ran 4 days a week before COVID. We have a very good candidate for a driver, and so we're hoping to get the bus back on the road full time again, which will mean that more people from far-flung locations can get to the center on Tuesdays for our luncheon. And of course, you guys are always welcome to join us there too. As Kathleen said, during COVID, we did a grab-and-go meal in the parking lot, whether it was raining or snowing or whatever, and that was really, really popular. And it was a great way for us to keep in touch with the people that we care so much about. So we're trying to get back to home-delivered meals 5 days a week. And it's proving to be quite challenging because we don't have very many volunteers. People are happy to come and help for an hour or two, but to actually commit to driving the routes. We have 3 routes currently. They're going out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So we're getting out there, but the wellness calls that Kathleen mentioned are a big part of what we do to make sure that everybody's okay and up and at 'em. So if you know anyone that's interested in volunteering, please ask them to call us. But also, and the last thing I want to mention is we have a little free library at our church office, and it is so busy. There's people in and out all the time. We also have one up in Plymouth. I'm the director at the Plymouth Senior Center as well, and we have one there that's very busy. But for the location on Church Street, it gets a lot of business. So I'm happy to be here to represent, and you're always welcome to join us. And Janet gave me her email, so I'll send the link to our website for the agency-wide, where you can get newsletters on all the various centers, specifically Newfound. Thanks very much. Thanks for considering us.
Can you talk about how many Bristol residents that you serve?
I don't have all of those numbers. Kathleen probably has the more accurate numbers. Today, we served a luncheon to 28, right, Aletha?
Right.
Yeah, so the Tuesday event, like 28, 30 is
Today-
typical?
Yep, it's usually a little higher.
Okay.
We had a fashion show and it's probably scared them off. But
And then you're visiting more houses than that?
yeah, we
3 times a
have
week.
about 28 people on our home delivered meal routes. So the fireman that I mentioned delivered that route on Monday for us, and he was out for 2.5 hours doing the entire route. So that it's a long haul. It's 50 miles because there are rural areas that we go to. So do you have a number?
Yeah, I have the stats as 225 Bristol residents in the last year received some kind of service from us, and that's about 1/3 of older adults in the town.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, you mentioned older people in subsidized. Is that Riverview on Lake
Well,
Street? Or is
I
there
know that
another
the
one? I'm just,
Yep, so the Beanos have the one on Beach Street and Town Square Apartments, and those are subsidized housing for the elderly and disabled. And then Riverview, I believe, is too. Do you guys know if that's correct? No, it's not by Beano, but is it a I think it is a subsidized housing. Yeah. So we'll probably go to one of those parking lots, so because that's where our demographic lives.
gotcha. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Just out of curiosity, you're serving senior citizens. What's your definition of a senior citizen?
I think it's 60 years of age and older.
60 and older. But we also serve adults with disabilities, and that's 18 and older.
I heard that, so yeah, thank you. Is the increase, the request for funding this year is higher than last year? Is that because just there's more cost and things gone up, or is there an increase in services being offered, or what's the?
So both, so the cost of everything is going up.
Yes, I understand.
Gas, food, everything, our supplies. So it's to reflect that, but also we're doing more. During COVID, we set up these grab-and-go meals that were takeout because of the pandemic, and online virtual programming, all intended to be temporary, but it's so popular that we're continuing. So, you add things and you never stop doing something to offset it. So we are doing more, but also because of the increased expenses.
Okay.
Do you call residents, what do they call it, a wellness call?
Yep.
Yes, they do.
We do, yes.
Oh.
Especially the home delivered meal recipients, if we don't have the volunteers to meet every day, to go every day. So we have a person that calls from home, from their own home, working for us, who reaches out to all of those folks to make sure they're okay. Because that's one of the benefits of the home delivered meal program, it's a wellness check.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now the back row is gonna be almost empty. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, have a good night.
Nice to see you.
So next up is Lakes Region Mental Health. We have someone? Yep, we do, good.
Hello, everyone.
Hello there.
Thank you very much. My name is Maggie Pritchard, and I am the CEO at Lakes Region Mental Health Center, and I've been there about 20 years. This year's request is about access and about providing the residents of Bristol access to care through our Department of Access. The request this year went up, and so I'm going to anticipate your question. How is that?
I thought you were doing that. Thank you.
The request went up because your census numbers went up. So we've always figured the towns, years ago I went to Tilton, as a matter of fact, and they said, Maggie, can you show us your math? Because we really want to make sure that you're not asking us for as much money as Guilford, because they got more money and more people in Guilford than we had in Tilton. And I said, I better come up with a mathematical equation that's fair to all towns. And so we did that. And I'm not sure that the town of Bristol grew as much as the census reflected. So that's how we did the math. I would say to you as the executive director, because I can say that, we would settle for whatever you feel comfortable giving us, understanding that your costs have gone up, and having watched the budget meeting from 2 weeks ago where the ambulance you have to buy in 2 years is going to cost you a pretty penny. So we are appreciative of whatever you can do to support us. Our services are really about medically necessary services for people who have psychiatric problems. Last year, 115 people in Bristol accessed our services. Of those 115 people, we were writing off $31,000 of charity care on their behalf, meaning their insurance would not cover them or they could not afford it because they didn't have insurance, those kinds of things. Mental health services, as you know, are in the news all the time now because the demand is up. The workforce is down. So our challenge is really right now is to be able to pay people enough to want to come to work and do the work that we do. I don't know if you want me to talk about therapy and other things or diagnose any of you, but I'm more than happy to.
Can you talk about the typical, you said
115 Bristol residents.
Can you talk about the typical pathway a resident takes to get to your services?
So unfortunately in mental health services, very many times people don't come until it's a crisis. So they end up having a situation at home where the police call us and ask them to accompany us with our new mobile crisis team to the house to settle down either a disruptive child or a marital dispute or what have you, where one person in the relationship is experiencing some psychiatric difficulties. So a lot of the people who come to us in the worst time of their lives for the most expensive service. Right? So going to the emergency room is a lot more expensive for you and for healthcare than going to your doctor's office when you can predict it. But we live in a society that says mental health is something you should be able to cure yourself and pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get going, and that just doesn't always work out for people. So probably half of the 115 likely came in an urgent or emergent situation. And I do have the breakdown of how old they were and those kinds of things, but I think it was in your letter. Anyways, most of them were adults. About 70 of them were adults. There were 30 children and 15 elders who came to us for support this past year.
Where is your office located?
In downtown Laconia, across from City Hall.
Oh.
That's the main office. There's
So
also an office in
somebody has to go
Plymouth.
over here.
Yeah, we do home visits. A lot of our work is in people's homes, helping them do their budget, helping them get to the grocery store, helping them take care of their personal needs, because a lot of people with psychiatric disorders have a hard time being organized enough to see to it to take care of those things. So they need some support, and that's what we do.
Will you tell me exactly what it is that you do? Because this is your organization is new to me, so I don't know what you do exactly.
Okay, so in the state of New Hampshire, there are 10 community mental health centers. They're designated in a geographic area by the Department of Health and Human Services to cover certain towns. So we have the Lakes region up to southern Grafton County. So we do Bristol, New Hampton, Alexandria, whatever. The state pays us through Medicaid if people have insurance, otherwise they don't. We have 3 managed care companies in the state of New Hampshire, so that's how we bill insurance for people who have Medicaid. We offer medically necessary services. So what that means is that if you come to the mental health center, a doctor has to prescribe, or a nurse practitioner, what you're going to get from services for us. We don't do anything else other than medically necessary services. So the doctor could order you medicine. The doctor could order you therapy every week. The doctor could order you in-home supports to take care of some of your symptoms. They could offer you nursing services. They could offer you a service called supported employment, where we look for you to manage your symptoms enough to get a job and to start getting back on track and recover. What else?
So those services, you have those people to provide those? So you have therapists and counselors?
Have about 200 employees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of people. There's usually about between 3,500 and 4,000 people in the Lakes region that come to us every year. only 115 of those are from Bristol, but I know,
Yeah, no.
when I say that, people go, really, we have over 3,000 people in this area need mental health services? Absolutely. But you know, there's varying degrees. Some people are really ill, some people just need short-term help because they went through a really messy divorce or they had a sudden death or what have you, and they just need to get back on track and get their lives together.
So you're a private nonprofit, is that not a
Yes.
state, you're not a state entity?
No,
Okay.
private nonprofit.
Is the state supportive of,
So the state is
Mental health
supportive as the state is supportive. I say that to municipalities with a tongue in cheek. It is that they give us what they can, and in a state that has no income tax or ability to necessarily fund things at what they cost, they do their best to do that. They love to give us new challenges, like put a mobile crisis team on the road and get going with that. But yeah, they're supportive.
So that's a relatively new program for you?
Mobile crisis started July 1st.
July 1st. And
Well, January 1st, the calls started, and then we started going out in February and March, but really it picked up in July.
and it has been used in Bristol.
Oh, yes, yes.
So, can I just ask, so when you said, like, this would be an increase of $4,000 and you're setting, the census went up, how much did the census go up?
I did not bring that. I rely on my
And you're just
CFO
talking about
to
the
do the
census just
math.
for Bristol?
Yes.
Went up, okay, how
Yeah.
much was that? You don't know?
I don't know how much.
Did you guess, no? Does anybody know anything
How
about
your
the
census went?
I haven't heard much about the census going up,
Yeah.
but, so with that, is that just anticipation? If we
So
do
it's
have an
about,
increase?
so think of it this way, it's about access. So when you think, you don't pay the fire department just because they went out on a call, right? You give money to make sure that there's someone there to answer the phone or to go on the call to the fire or what have you. And so that's how our business operates. We have these people sitting at the phone trying to get you the help that you need, either sending out a dispatch for the mobile crisis team or get you in to see a therapist or a doctor right away so that you can start taking medicine and get better, what have you. So.
So you have an overall budget and you sort of allocate that out by looking at
The deficit of the programs.
Right, but you're also looking at how many people
People
in each
live in
town,
the town.
basically,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah, that's where the census comes in. So but the increase of $4,000, I mean, is it anticipation? There's nothing particular? You're
No,
just
it's
saying
not to
because there's
say
more
that
people now.
100 right.
Okay.
It's like, you got it.
Yeah.
There's more people to potentially call,
So
so that's what
potentially
you do.
would call,
Right.
so you're asking for extra 4,000 in case
Yeah.
they call?
Yeah.
Okay.
God forbid they all call, but that's it.
Yeah.
Well, there was quite a long conversation in the governor's debate today about the mental health issue. I don't know if you happened to hear it.
Oh, I did not.
Yeah.
I was too
so-
busy working.
I was on the road listening to the radio, so,
Uh-huh.
and they were both decrying the lack of sufficient capability in the state in general. So,
Well, nobody wants to do mental health. If you go to the high school and you say, how many kids here want to go into mental health for their career?
Yeah.
You might get one hand. Then you'd think you struck it rich, so.
So before, I think that's kind of wrapping up. I think unfortunately, since we're a budget committee, we do tend to focus on numbers. So I'd like to ask, the population of Bristol, to me, could have gone up, and it could have gone through a certain point to get us from, one category to another, but it certainly didn't double
Right.
from, 3 to 7. So I think we probably would like to hear back from you. Could just be an email or a correspondence back to the town through Christina Goodwin, who is now the acting deputy town administrator. Nick Coates has moved on.
Wouldn't that come to you?
Or you could send it to me, I can give you
Yeah,
my
that should
email
come
as the
to
chair
you.
of the committee, you can write
Paul?
to me, so it's Paul Regan.
Yeah.
And it's my name, Paul Regan, @usa.net. Now everyone knows. Broadcasting this to the town, that was a mistake.
We're all gonna write some lengthy emails tonight to you.
But I wanna say your program makes sense, it sounds like it's worthwhile, it's just, the percentage increase is so high that we will feel better if we understand it better.
Okay,
yeah.
be happy to do it.
Yeah, I like that.
All right.
All right?
Thank you
Any
very
other,
much.
any other questions?
I'll have one more. So if someone goes to the hospital, have a suicide attempt, a suicide ideation, they end up in the emergency room, do you then get involved post that afterwards in some way?
So yes, so it's odd. The state of New Hampshire changed emergency services. So I used to come here and say, help fund emergency care, right? Because that was my biggest deficit program. When they introduced mobile crisis this year, they essentially did away with emergency services. So we used to go from Lakes Region Emergency Room to Spear and back and forth to see whoever came into those emergency rooms in a psychiatric crisis. The state won't support that anymore because they want us to go out and go with the police or go to the school or whoever calls us. But Lakes Region General Hospital decided that they want someone still in the emergency room, so they pay us to be there. So we do respond to those, and then Spear doesn't, but Spear would call the mobile crisis team if they wanted us to come. Or I have a contract with Spear so that my doctors and nurse practitioners could go in at least and give them medication while they're in the emergency room. But it was a change in services.
Yes.
So actually that triggers a follow-up question. You almost got out of here.
I can stay all night, you guys, but no.
So you had mentioned earlier that it's basically medically required and a doctor would have prescribed something, but then you mentioned, getting. So is there someone in the town, like the police department, that you work closely with, or is it more that the people end up having a crisis and then end up getting referred to a doctor, and then the doctor prescribes something, and then they come to you to get that prescription or service order filled?
So no, it comes from anywhere. It can come from the chief of police, it can come from an officer who's on duty and just calls 988 or the other 1833, whatever the other number is that I haven't memorized. But it could be anybody, and then it can be the emergency room that calls for the same reason, because we need someone evaluated who's in crisis and they're in our emergency room. So it can come from anywhere.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's the hospitals, the police departments, the schools, stuff like that.
Okay.
Are you the organization that determines where someone goes from the emergency room, generally
Yes.
speaking, or always?
Almost always,
Almost always.
especially if they need to go into a hospital.
Right,
So
right.
we're the ones that do the evaluation to say, you don't have the capacity to decide what to do and you're dangerous to yourself or someone else, and so we are gonna take your civil liberties away and we're going to involuntarily commit you to a hospital.
Because that is one of the issues. I think that's a big problem.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because there's no beds.
Right.
All right, so have a
you.
good night, thank you very much.
I found Bristol census figure, so 2010, we were 3,054. And the 2020 census, we were 3,244. So an increase of 200 people on our census.
6 or 7%.
But and also, we see a higher percentage increase than a few of the other surrounding towns. I think that's what to keep in mind too.
Yeah, but that
We're
was
growing.
that was 2020, that wasn't two years since then, people could have left and come in, so what's?
Oh yeah, but this is based off. She said based off
Yeah,
census
census.
figures.
Okay.
So the calculation was be done on 2010. Now it's being done on the 2020 census figures.
Okay.
And some towns have even lost people
So that's what I'm
within
saying.
this area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just looking at our town is not the whole story, is what I'm saying.
I guess what I'm saying is,
It's the overall.
Right.
what you're saying matches kind of what I was expecting, and so we'll wait to hear back from Margaret
Yeah.
with further details, and I expect it will make sense, but we just, we're Inga, we need to know.
Like for example, there's some towns down here
Or I am, I won't speak for everyone else.
that have gone down in numbers, have increased by 5 people.
Yeah.
So we may be growing more than a lot of towns around.
So it's probably based on the overall population of the area you serve.
Well, yeah, we
Right.
do the deficit of the program and then we
Right.
divide it up
Yeah.
between the
Right.
towns that we serve.
Okay,
All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
so, Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association is next. Do we have anyone? Do we have anyone out in the hall, in the lobby? No, right?
You know,
Yeah, thank you,
they
Shannon.
didn't come last year, and the year before, I don't think they came.
Who are we talking about?
Visiting nurses.
Visiting nurse.
DNA.
They came the year before.
They've been here
Yeah,
before,
oh, yeah.
but
They
they're
came the year
not,
before.
No, I think they've come.
Yeah.
I thought they'd come
Every
in the
year.
past, but
Yeah.
this was run through the town administration, and us as a committee weren't really involved in setting this up, so to be honest, all I'm doing is reading down the list.
Well, when the new, person took over, at Nana, that they didn't come.
Okay.
And the year before they had a change and they didn't come.
I feel like they've been here the last 2 years.
Well,
Yeah, I don't.
I remember. Maybe
Oh,
not.
you remember.
I remember at least one time.
No, it is one time, I know
The
that.
point-
That was-
the point-
Oh, yeah.
was
Because
that?
they talked about the transition from.
Yeah, they were here. They were here.
let's
Sorry.
not try to figure
Alright.
out, let's just say there's no one here from
Got it.
Anna, and let's move on to NH, what's that, mental health?
Walter had a question.
Oh, Walter, go ahead.
Nana was a Bristol, a rock in the town. It was a very important part of the town. It's been taken over by a bigger agency,
Correct?
and it was a lot easier to have a strong affection for Nana.
Mhm.
It being an important, very important part of town. But the services that they provide for the people in this town are incredibly important. I know people my age and older that really need these services.
Yes, I know that they've merged into the bigger organization and they're not Nana anymore, they're Lakes Region Visiting Nurse, but they still have an office in town and they're still providing services, so I'm disappointed they're not here to talk to us, but
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it, so I'm just gonna move to the next group.
What do you normally do in this case where someone doesn't show up? I mean, that's a lot of money to ask.
Well, we're not making any decisions now, I think what we'll do is we can still go back and look at the paperwork they submitted, and then we can also get in touch with them and invite them to explain why they weren't here, and maybe we can decide if we have some questions, we can forward them to
I think
them.
that'd be fair considering the amount of money they're looking for to have them come in still.
But I just didn't want the other folks here in this room to have to sit through that, so I wanna come back to that at
Absolutely,
the
I'm
end.
with you. I'm with you on that.
So, I think it's the Municipal Association that's next up on the list, and do we have anyone from the New Hampshire Municipal Association? That looks like a no.
We have someone waving.
Christina? Oh, someone on the screen is waving too.
Yeah.
So, Christina, maybe you don't talk, if the person up in the corner unmutes themselves and start talking, they'll show up on the screen?
I think Catherine Peck is on the screen, to talk to you, so I will mute myself now.
Great, she's just a small box at the top, so hopefully she'll take over the main part of the screen.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I apologize that our Executive Director, Margaret Burns, couldn't be with you this evening. She had a sudden illness, and she deeply apologizes for this inconvenience. But I'm here to represent NHMA and answer any questions that you might have for us. And to share, I was just in your community for my daughter's field hockey game. It's a lovely community, it's smaller than my own. So I really enjoyed being up there last week. At this high school. That was a wonderful experience for me. So anything I can answer for you or share with you about our organization, I'm happy to do so.
The only question I have, I guess, is I remember from last year, we had this meeting and we got a request, and then at some point later in the year, you guys did some more final calculations and came back with a revised number. Is that how it's gonna happen again this year?
So our dues are approved by our board at the October 21st meeting. And then after the dues are approved, we will have a formula, so it's equitable for all of our members, that uses the most recent assessed valuation, which will be set during your tax time, and the population numbers from the Office of Strategic Initiatives through the state, and that's how we set our dues. So while we have estimates, it can fluctuate slightly based on population or your assessed evaluation.
Yep.
On our formula.
Not saying that's a problem, I just wanted to point out that that's the way it is, and that, I guess the other thing that I would point out, or to clarify is, I mean, for some of these organizations, they're asking for a certain amount of money, but they're basically saying, you know, we'll take whatever we can get. With your organization, it's basically that number or nothing. We either members and pay the assessment, or we would have to decide not to be members. Is that am I understanding correctly?
That's correct. There's no optional charges of.
Right. We can't tell you, we want to be a member, but we don't want to pay that amount of money. That's not really acceptable to you guys.
Well, I don't know if it's not acceptable. I'd have to, the executive would have to answer it. However, our formula is based on all the 234 cities and towns, and then looking at the revenue that we need to generate to operate for the upcoming year. So that's how the calculation is met using the formula that we have in place with population and assessed valuations. So using similar formulas that the state uses for some of its funding mechanisms.
Has anything changed about how your organization is running over the last year?
It changed. I'm not sure if I understand the question, but we are now offering more hybrid events and more virtual events so that people can attend perhaps in person because of the drive, or perhaps they're still concerned about the pandemic or health-related issues. So we're trying to expand that service to our members. We're offering more free webinars than we ever have in the past to our members to have more educational outreach. And I'm not really sure if there's any other changes that I can highlight for you.
Thank you. No, that's what I was looking for.
You're welcome.
So the number of 234 towns and cities, that's all of them, yes?
234, not 1,000, just 234 cities and towns.
Sorry, towns and cities, but that's the entire state, right?
That's
So
correct.
everyone is a member,
Everyone is a member at this time, that is correct.
but you don't have to be.
But that is optional, that's correct.
There are some years where literally one town is not a member, but almost most years it's every town's a member.
So that's how you can come up with the number, got
it?
Got it, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Walter, Janet, anything? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, that's been helpful. I think that's it for questions.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to partnering with you in the future. We hope that you'll continue on as members for our education, training, advocacy, and legal services. I am the government finance advisor at NHMA, so I'm here. I work on training with budget committees, for example, as well as accounting questions. I'm also one of the lead advocates at the State House to get state monies to cities and towns in New Hampshire. That's my main goal. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for your time. Have a good night yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are through with the set of people who are here. We're through with the set that was supposed to be scheduled from 6 to 7. So do we want to take 5 minutes for a bathroom break? I'm not sure if that everyone that's supposed to be here from 7 to 8 is here already. Or do we want to just go on to the next?
Can we just go to the people in the room and then we'll...
Yeah, so we'll keep moving. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if I call
Unless
a
you
group,
guys want to stay.
I will call the next group, and if they're not here, we'll try to cycle back in case they show up later. So the next group is Bridge House.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
I don't know, some other people have joined online, so I don't know if you want to check from the 6 to 7 group if any of those people are from outside.
Okay, so good call, Christina. So earlier we asked for a representative from CASA, and there was no one here, and we asked for a representative from the Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association. So if anyone on the Zoom meeting electronically represents either of those groups, please speak up and let us know that you're here. I don't see any. Okay, so is there anyone here from Bridge House? Anyone on the computer? No. So is there anyone here from the Newfound Lake Region Association? You're up. I should have looked at your bag. I wouldn't know.
Yeah. I showed up early this year because last year I got skipped when I showed up right at 7, so I'm here a little early. Hi everyone, it's good to be back here.
Thanks for coming.
I just want to say thank you for the long support we've enjoyed from the town of Bristol. I think it's a really great and meaningful partnership we've been able to maintain over the years. I think most of you have been on the committee for a while, so you're probably familiar with the NLRA as the group that protects the lake and watershed. We've been doing that for a number of years. We're once again asking for $2,000 from the town of Bristol, and I just wanted to highlight some of the things that have happened this year. We've had a really incredible year. Namely, we've really boosted our capacity by adding 2 program staff, so we're a year-round staff of 4. That's the first time that's happened. One of those is our conservation program manager. That's a position we've had before, but he has been driving forward, blowing out our invasive species management or protection, I should say, because we're not actually managing invasive, it's a good thing, but we've had more lake coast hours this year at the Wellington boat ramp, and we've done way more weed watching. So we've had a number of volunteers that took part in a new event we call the Weed Stampede, where they're actually out looking for invasive species around the lake. The idea that an invasive species in the lake is actually going to impact the property values along the lake by 26 to 40%. That is a established scientific study that determined that. So that's why it's, I think, especially relevant to town governments. We also have a new education manager, program manager, who's reaching out to schools, all the schools in the school district, with the Tapley Thompson Community Center, where we're doing stuff with their after-school kids and their summer programs. So really trying to increase a sense of stewardship amongst our young folks in the area, not just the people who are here in the summertime, but the people who are here year-round, because it's really fostering a sense of stewardship that's going to maintain this place into the future. I could keep talking for a while about the work we do. I'm pretty proud of it. But in looking forward, we've got more great work. We're still working on implementing our watershed management plan. In the next year or 2, we'll be addressing 2 of the most significant erosion sites around the lakes to help protect water quality. On the 24th of October, we've got our watershed workshop. So we're bringing together all our watershed towns, conservation commissions, planning boards, select boards. You guys are welcome to come as well if you'd like, to really talk about the efforts each of those towns are doing in the area of environmental protection, and really hoping that these groups can collaborate together and problem solve through issues that everybody's dealing with. And yeah, more great education programs and really working on reducing stormwater to make sure the lake maintains its really high water quality. So I'm happy to take any questions from.
Do you have any programs that target homeowners along the lake?
Yes. So we have a program that its name is in flux right now. We used to call it our Youth Conservation Corps, and that was a way where we were working with shorefront property owners to help reduce their impact through small-scale stormwater management projects, doing infiltration steps, rain gardens, swales, all these small things that homeowners can do to encourage water to infiltrate into the ground as opposed to run off, pick up pollutants, and enter the lake. This year, because of our new staff, we put that on hold, and we're reinvigorating it this year with a little bit more structure, and we're aiming for somewhere between 6 and 10 homeowner sites per year. And we're also partnering with the organization New Hampshire Lakes, which is the statewide lake association. They have a program called Lake Smart that really is kind of a peer pressure way to get folks to deal with stormwater on their own property. So by, they go through this checklist that, okay, you don't have any erosion sites, you're doing this, various things you can do to protect the lake, and then you get a placard or a sign that says I'm Lake Smart, and the idea is it snowballs and encourages other people.
Would that look at like fertilizer use and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
That Lake Smart program?
Yep, exactly. So, and there's state regulations that cover that, but really doing our best to educate people about what those rules are and helping them figure out alternatives.
That's exactly it. You have turnover. Do they even know what the rules are about what they can and can't do on their property? Yeah.
So,
And how did the loon count go?
Oh gosh, I feel like
that was just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, it was. Tell me more about it.
I don't know. The whole lake was in an uproar. How many loons?
Okay, I am not sure, but I can certainly find out.
I'd love to know.
And but I do know that there was not a successful nesting on the lake this year.
I didn't know that.
So
That was just out. That was just somewhere I read that in the last month, right?
Yeah, we
Was it
put
from-
out,
from
yeah,
Chris?
we put out some information, so we're working with the Loon Preservation Committee,
Yeah,
who's
so-
the statewide organization that deals with loons. We ran 3 loon cruises on our eco tour boat this year that sold out in hours, made us feel very popular. But it was some great work. We also helped them get their loon raft out there. Loons are struggling in a lot of ways, lead tackle, motorboat traffic, and things. And loons are they're at the southern edge of their breeding range here in New Hampshire. So as we see climate shift, it becomes a difficult environment for them, especially as they nest out of the water. It gets hot for them.
And their clutches are small compared to like 1 or 2 versus ducks can have 7, 8.
Right, they do a lot of things. I mean, they're amazing creatures, but they aren't great at ensuring their survival.
Yeah.
So yeah, they takes 8 or 9 years for them to reach breeding maturity. Yeah, all sorts of things. So
Now, are the other lakes around here having problems with?
So yes, from what I understand, where our chick survival rate is lower than average.
Yeah.
But I know the loons on Squam, which has a really high loon population, it's a totally different lake, but they are also struggling with chick survival as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a common problem. The loon, the lead tackle issue was largely taken care of by, was that 5 or 6 years ago, by changing the law by what is allowable for lead tackle. The people who fish, from their sparkly boats and match the trailers and things like that, they've replaced their tackle. I think there's still a lot of lead poisoning in loons, and I think that could largely be addressed by, the people that pull out the tackle box, once a year to fish for their grandkids that don't really think about it. So, so we did take in quite a bit of lead tackle this year, traded in. We have free tackle to trade out to people as well. So.
I don't know, Christina, are you listening?
I am.
But do you remember what it was that came out? Was it a newsletter from NLRA that went over the loon issue, and you could forward that to the committee here if you or I could remember?
We did come out with a newsletter. It must have been us.
It must have been what it was.
Your newsletters are fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
They're
Thank you.
fabulous.
So one of us will send it to everyone so that you have it, because it discusses the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
You want to do that? Or do you want me to?
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, please. You can send it to everyone, or if you want, you can send it to me and I'll send it on.
If you have trouble finding it, let me know and I can get it out to you.
I don't want to step on your toes. That's
No.
We're not making dancing yet.
I also did bring newsletters, our print newsletter from last time. We only had 3 left, so I brought them. If anyone's interested in learning more, I'm happy to share that out. So stickers if you want, but I don't want to be bribing any of you. So.
I think people will take them, and I don't think they're valuable enough that they are a problem. I mean, I know they're valuable.
Yeah.
But they're not so. I'm curious. Your fiscal year, is that a calendar year, or do you work on a different basis?
Well, so until about, today's the 11th, 10 days ago,
Okay.
it ran October 1 through September 30.
Okay.
We had just changed it to the calendar year. And
I'm an accountant. Oh! Wonderful.
yes. So we're now in this awkward
Transition.
3-month stub period where so.
Okay.
So the answer is yes, we're on a calendar year, but fast forward in a couple months, we'll be there. So.
Very good. Okay. Anything else?
It seems like a low, I know in the budget committee you wouldn't say this, it seems like a low amount. 2,000 seems like a small amount for.
We've talked in the past, just the lake host program alone. We find it's valuable for this town.
I mean, this is.
And having that at the lake
Right.
for people to have to go through.
I'm just throwing that out there, doesn't mean you need to say anything.
I mean, I will, but we'd be happy to take whatever you're willing to give. I think before I was executive director here, I think we did ask for, I want to say it was $2,500, and then, but the level of $2,000 was maintained. At some point, maybe we can talk further about it. I think we're at a point where we're starting to grow enough where our programmatic offerings are increasing. So it's something that, maybe we'll revisit that in coming years, but, we don't want to, we're partners here, so we don't want to be trying to squeeze every last dollar out of town, out of Bristol.
Yeah, my memory is, I think actually before your time, 3 years ago, the ask was 4,000.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
wow.
right.
Oh.
Yep.
That was, yeah.
My memory is, I think it was 4,000.
I think so too.
I think.
Yep.
I don't
Remember that too?
I don't remember
That number?
but I believe you.
And that I think is we're talking about 3 years ago. Yeah.
We do ask for varying amounts from each of the watershed towns. I think Hebron contributes $2,000, same as you. I think Bridgewater and Alexandria, I want to say it's maybe about 1,500. Groton contributes enthusiastically as well, which is great for a non-waterfront town. They give us $1,000 a year. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Oh, great.
And we'll see you guys next year.
All righty. All right, so we did, how about the garden club? I think we have someone from the garden club, so we'll get you up here and let you go home.
Great, thank you. If you don't mind,
No, if you have
this is kind
stuff.
of a summary of what I'm gonna say tonight. You already have a lot of information about the organization and a copy of our brochure. If you would mind just passing those along, that would be great. My name is Jane White. I'm president of Pasquana Garden Club. I have with me tonight Shirley York, and I have Barbara Carpenter, who's also another member of the garden club this morning. So, thank you for having
Have a
us.
seat, we'll get to you eventually.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you for having us, and thank you for your ongoing support. I think we've always had a good working relationship. This year, I know you're somewhat familiar with us. This year, I've increased the request for town funding, but I've broken it down into 2 different sections because I think that's important for you to understand. The garden club itself is really looking at $2,000, which is what we received from the town of Bristol over the last few years. We're not asking for an increase. We've changed some of what we're doing with our gardening techniques, using different plants to take up more space, watching our budgets in some other areas and so on and so forth. We're trying to be very conscientious about that. The increase is because, if you recall,
Butterfly garden.
the butterfly garden is owned by the town of Bristol. And the funding for the mulch and the knotweed removal was always on the Minot Sleeper Library budget until this current year. And the trustees didn't want it on their budget any longer. So even though we're not a department of the town, we've got it. So this year, I'm requesting $760. Last year you gave us $500 for that. We've actually spent so far this year, $575. And we did not have one of the knotweed removals done because we didn't have the extra town money to be able to do it. So the garden club put in the $75 to make up the difference for that. In addition to that, this year, the garden club happened to have a little bit more money because we haven't had a lot of programming because of COVID-19. So we hired a landscape firm to help us with the border at the edge of the parking lot where the fence is, to do some weeding in there, landscape the land a little bit, and add some more mulch. The garden club paid for that. That was $1,005. That was our decision to do that. We're not looking for a reimbursement or anything around that. But I want you to understand that we're committed to making this area look nicely as well. And I hate to ask for an increase because I'm sure everybody is asking for an increase this year, but I would like to cover the cost for next year if we're able to do that. So that's what it is. You have a listing of all the plant sites that we had sent to you before. I don't know if you have any other questions about the budget or not, or what we do.
I sort of do.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, you told us that the volunteers contributed 1,000 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be the same this year?
That's what I put in here in the statement too. It's approximately 1,000 hours. I've had difficulty with people really tracking their hours accurately.
Oh,
but we know from the work days at the garden, how many people are there and so on, approximately how many times you have to visit your barrel every week to make sure it's watered and deadheaded and so on and so forth. So it's a lot of time.
Is Hilda still growing?
Hilda's part of the downtown decorating committee. We work closely with them.
Yeah.
We purchase all the flowers for them, including the hanging baskets and so on, from this money we get from the town of Bristol.
That was, you got 300 hanging plants last year, but I can remember,
Not 300 hanging plants, it's $300.
$300.
Yeah,
Of
for
hanging
plants.
plants.
Okay, yeah.
So they purchase essentially all the plants for the downtown decorating committee.
Yeah.
And they get
And
essentially a good rate for those plants
Yeah.
and facilitating that process for the
Yeah.
town. So it's super helpful for the downtown
Yeah.
decorating committee.
Yeah, they get to choose what they have, what they want, what color they want the hanging baskets this year or something. We order them specially and have them grown for us.
Yeah, you went over to Alton a year
Still do.
ago. You still do.
Yes.
You
It's
guys
quite
do
an
a great
adventure.
job, it's beautiful. I mean,
Thank you.
Oh,
Could you back up and explain the increase again to me, or one of you guys probably? You said it's gone up $750 because of the butterfly garden, but then did I misunderstand that?
Yes. We're asking for a total amount of $2,760.
$760, yeah.
$2,000 is the same as we've been getting to
Right.
support all the plants and whatnot in the town.
Right.
The $760, last year we got $500.
Oh, you did, okay.
Okay, from the
Yeah.
town for that. And again, that was a budget item for us.
And they've overspent that budget
Got it.
this year.
We've overspent the budget.
And they've done additional work other than that too,
Yeah, got
to
it.
the butterfly garden
Right.
behind the library.
I didn't get where the 500 came from.
Yep.
Thank you. Perfect.
So we're actually asking for an extra $260
Yep.
this year to try to cover that cost. And hopefully it won't go up too much next year.
You gotta hit the knotweed every year.
Yeah.
If you
Well, this
don't,
year we only did
disaster.
it once, but the gentleman who cuts it for us did it a little bit later this year, so it's actually not blooming.
Yeah,
So we figured we could get away with cutting that this year. But it really should be done twice.
yeah.
Perfect, okay.
it looks beautiful. Our town
Thank
looks
you.
beautiful.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, and everyone look at the library, it's still booming.
It is, it's kind of amazing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, next up is Pemmy Baker Hospice and Home Health. Is anyone here? Oh, we have someone, yep. Is there anyone else in the lobby at the moment?
No, it was just
Okay,
me.
no,
All right,
come on
everyone.
in. Your timing's perfect.
Okay.
Get, have a seat.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, my name is Danielle Paquette Horn, and I'm the Executive Director at Pemmy Baker Hospice and Home Health.
Excellent.
Yes. And I'm here this evening to request some town appropriations.
You're in the right place.
Yeah. Do you have some of the paperwork that we sent over, or should I go ahead and
So we have the paperwork that you sent in on the, I don't have it, I do have it in front of me, but,
It's supposed to be electronically here or something?
there is, if you
Yeah,
open up
there's
the,
a cover letter.
if you open
is
up the folder that says 2003 nonprofit cover letters, and then you go
okay.
into,
Got it.
you can see that. So,
Thank you.
we have that from you, so I don't know that you need to so much read that to us.
Yeah.
But if you would just kind of give us an overview or a quick overview of what your program does. And
Absolutely.
I think, to be honest, in particular, we're kind of home focused. You know, how does that
Affect
impact
Bristol.
Bristol?
Absolutely, yes. So Pemmy Baker has been around since 1967, and we are servicing 29 towns in the counties of Grafton and Belknap County. Okay. The services that we are providing to the town of Bristol, we offer home care, palliative care, and hospice care. Under our home care program, we are servicing patients who are homebound and have the need for nursing assistance, nurses' aides, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And so in 2021, just to give you a few statistics, we saw 5 patients in the town of Bristol, which was a total of 74 visits. And that was roughly 108 hours of skilled nursing. skilled services, which were all those disciplines that I just described to you. When I say skilled, just so that, because sometimes I speak and I want to make sure everybody knows what I'm saying. Skilled services are services that are provided that are from clinicians who are educated and either hold licenses or higher degrees. So for example, doctors, nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech, those are all professions that have gone to extra schooling and have earned certificates and degrees. That's what skilled clinicians means.
Okay.
In 2022, our numbers have gone up, and we have seen 3 hospice patients in the town of Bristol and 14 home health patients in the town of Bristol, for the total of 346 visits and 375 hours.
Why do you think the difference between the years? What's happening?
I think that there is a great need for people, especially since COVID hit, that people were needing more in-home care. And I think with the nursing shortage and other disciplines such as physical therapy and occupational therapy, other VNAs could not service the patients, and so we were asked to go out and help. So we received more referrals. And so we have outlined it for you on how we figured the numbers. So we know that in the town of Bristol, there are approximately 3,277 residents in the town of Bristol.
Sounds close enough to me.
Right? And so we have requested $7,611. We did take out the residential students that were part of those numbers. My request to you all is that if you're not able or comfortable giving us that amount, if you would consider a smaller amount to give to us for the town appropriation.
Can I just ask a couple of questions? Because I'm not sure. Have we not serviced, or you've not serviced Bristol before?
Historically, Nana was your VNA. Right? And what's happening, I don't know if you're aware of this, but what has been happening in the last 3 years, VNAs are no longer respecting the town's boundaries. So for instance, in the past, when we received a referral that had Nana's name on it, we would call Nana and say, we got a referral for somebody in your town or somebody in your service area. So here you go. It was a mistake. Sometimes Nana would say, we don't want to take that patient. Once in a while they would say that and we'd say, well, we'll give it a whirl. So we'll take that referral, but we wanted to check with you. That respect is no longer, meaning other VNAs are coming into territories and not recognizing that there is a territory. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that to you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So what we are seeing is, including Penny Baker, is that where everyone used to stay in their towns that they said that they were going to service, people are now expanding into other towns, meaning there's a lot of other VNAs coming in and saying, well, we'll service people as well in the town of Bristol, or the town of Alexandria, the town of Hebron. So
even though we still have the Lakes region, I guess it goes under another name, right? Now,
yeah,
because they were
it's
taken
now,
over.
Nana was taken over by Lakes Region Visiting Nurses.
But they're the ones who still service our area.
They do, as well as Penny Baker, and other places will come into the town as well.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm just a little confused. So now you would be
an option for when other VNAs are, well, I'll give you an example. So for instance, if for some reason Lakes Region VNA received a referral for a Bristol resident, they were unable to service it, then the referral source, meaning the hospital or the doctor's office, would say, well, look, we need to find you somebody. And we see that Penny Baker would also service that area, so let's call them and see if they can take the referral. And we say, yes, we can.
Right, so I guess, I don't know, you know where I'm going with this? Because it just.
I understand, I guess if I could try to help, so
Yeah.
I noticed the same thing. It
Yeah.
looks like this is the first year your organization has asked for support from the town of Bristol.
Right, yes.
So the thing that confuses me a little bit is, so like you said, we used to have the Newfound Area, NANA, the Newfound
Yes,
Area Nursing, and now they've been merged into the Lakes region, which is based out of Plymouth. But the thing that
It's, no, it's,
Oh, yeah.
no. No, it's based out of Meredith.
Oh, man.
Lakes Region
Ah.
Visiting Nurses is out of Meredith.
See, that's what I didn't understand. For some
Okay.
reason, I thought it was
Penny
Plymouth.
Baker, our main
And
office
that's what I was gonna say,
is
is
out
that
of
you're,
Plymouth.
yes, I
Yes.
got that, okay.
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 Okay,
Wasn't
so,
it-
but we're still, you know, with Lakes Region, would be paying them an enormous amount, a good amount. Why would we want a second? I guess I'm confused, I'm only
Sure,
asking because
I can
have no
answer
clue
for you
on this.
because your residents are utilizing some of our services and we anticipate that that will continue to grow.
So that you just anticipated that they may call, even though there was a
No.
need for you last year. I mean, there was a need for you because we had, you know, a shortage of people wouldn't leave their homes, and all the things that you had said because of COVID and all that stuff. But you're anticipating that who's going to be calling you? Our residents or other people will be calling you?
Both, the residents, as they become familiar with Penny Baker and our services, and if they're happy, they would obviously call us back if they ever required assistance in their home. They would call us personally, or they tell their doctor, or if they're at the hospital, they say, when you're getting discharged from the hospital, they say, we think you would do well with having in-home care, so you can recover better at home. You have a choice. Who would you like to have for your visiting nurse? And the patient has a choice. So the patients can make that decision, that's really their decision. The referral source can make recommendations and say, well, in your town, we see that Lakes Region Visiting Nurses provides it, Bayada, whoever, Bayada Hospice, Penny Baker, they give them options and they get to choose.
All right, but you're asking for money ahead of time.
Well, the statistics that I gave you are from already what we've done in 2022.
Okay.
And so we've already seen an uptick. So in 2021, we saw 5 patients. In 2022, we saw 3 hospice patients and 14 home health patients. So the numbers more than doubled. And so yes, we are anticipating that it will continue because of either word of mouth, people being happy with our services, and also if for some reason another VNA is unable to take that referral, they have to decline it. And then the care manager at the hospital has to go back to the patient and say, unfortunately, this VNA can't serve you, but there's another VNA who comes to your town. Would you like to try them? So that's how that works. And they say, sure, I'll give it a try. I need help. And so then we would go out.
That's I was power attorney for a friend of mine who passed early June. She was in Franconia, actually, all the way up at the
The Lafayette Center?
Thank you. Getting recuperative treatment. When that was over, she had to go home. This is New Hampton now, not Bristol. And that's exactly what happened. She said, well, can I have Nana? Because she's from Bristol. No, couldn't get Nana. And couldn't get one of the other organizations, and the facility recommended you folks. It said, this is, and the conversation was basically, this is who we could find that you can get to go to your house in the next 2 days.
I was gonna say the same thing, when my mother was in the hospital and then got out, they had like a hospital rep say, okay, you need a visiting nurse to come see you when we discharge you. Here's the agencies we have. Do you have a preference? We need to line someone up to come to your house and take care of you. So I understand what you're saying, and there's questions.
But I think in my case, there wasn't even a list of preferences.
It was who, this is who
Right,
can,
so
who
when
is
you're-
Should be contacted that can't do it.
I understand what you're saying is your friend said, I want Nana, and then Nana basically said, for some reason, we couldn't do it. We don't have capacity, for some reason they couldn't do it, and then they got recommended to Penny Baker, and
And
they
they're
were able
separately
to do
billed,
it.
however, correct? They're
What's that again?
separately billed from the other organization. They're not
Right,
billing
whoever
with
does,
your town.
whoever
Okay.
does the work is,
That's how usually, because I worked for, hospital area, so I know what the situation is on that. I'm just saying, it sounds like a new company coming in and asking, it's just to me, that's why I wanna have clarification. You're a new company, wants to come in and now you want the services, and it just seems like you're gonna have two competing services for a town, so I just wanna understand this.
Instead of looking at it
Yeah.
from that standpoint, and that's what I wanted to give you that background.
Right.
There are no more boundaries.
Right.
We used to operate by respecting those boundaries. But unfortunately, because the for-profit VNAs have been coming up the turnpike from Massachusetts, they don't have any respect for the small town ways that we've been doing it for. Penny Baker's been in business since 1967, taking care of people in Grafton County. And so all of a sudden, you get pushed up against from people who are in a different, they don't operate that way. And so we've been experiencing that. And it's not just Lakes Region VNA, it's other VNAs as well.
Right.
Yeah. So people are going outside of their what used to be called territories. There are no more.
So
It's difficult for the patient.
Well, I think if the patient, if it doesn't have to be, because I think what it does is it gives the patient options. So for instance, let's say your only choice was one VNA.
Yeah.
And you did not like that VNA. You did not like the experience you had with them. Well, then who else is going to help me, right?
Yeah.
And so now the patients have choices.
I don't know, I didn't grow up here in Bristol, but we've had Nana at my house 3 times, and they're fabulous. But they're from Bristol.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I think what I want to do is, I have a question, but before I do, I just want to make a comment and try to cut some of this off, because we're not gonna make any decisions or make any choices right now. I think just to let you know, part of the thing that's confusing to us, or at least to me, is that this is new information, so this wasn't known to me. So we look at the request we have from Lakes Region, the successor to NANA, which we think of as our hometown organization, and they're asking for the same amount of money that they did last year, so they're not indicating they're doing any less. But when we called them, they didn't show up tonight, so we haven't talked to them and asked them any questions. So we need to follow up with them, I think, and figure out what we're doing. So I think we could keep asking questions, but I don't think we're going to get this resolved now, so I kind of would like to cut it off. But now, having done that to all of you, I just want to go in a slightly different direction. So your group's your organization's name is Home Health and Hospice.
Penny Baker, Hospice and Home Health.
Right. So to me, that's, and you talk in there about home health and palliative and
care.
hospice. So my question really has more to go with the hospice side of it. So, do you run a hospice home where you bring in people for end of life, or do you go to their house and provide that support?
All of our care is provided in people's homes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
However, I'll say, in my experience, my friend was only home for a few days and had to go to a hospice house, and your folks took care of making that arrangement.
We did.
And found a bed for it.
I know who you're talking about, and we did.
Yeah. And
But I'm
found a bed
asking
for it.
because I know someone that got to the point where she needed hospice care and went to a hospice house,
Yes.
and I heard so much good things about that. So that's kind of why I was asking to find out if that resource is something you provide that would be available to our citizens.
The
But-
closest hospice house is in Concord, and the next closest is in Merrimack. Yeah.
Again,
So they're few and far between in the state,
Correct.
is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Do
Yes.
you have a card I can give to someone that I believe would like to change their service?
Absolutely. I
There you
will
go.
go out to my car and get you a brochure
I
and my
would
business
appreciate
card.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I thank you. I know this is new. You haven't met me before. If for some reason this isn't the year that you decide that you want to give Penny Baker some money for the services, I'll come back next year, and and you'll know me then. And I welcome you to also, if you have any, if you want to learn more about what we do, if you want to check us out online, we have a beautiful website.
I was gonna comment that we have your name and your contact information, your address and your phone number from your request letter. So if we have follow-up questions, we will definitely be in touch.
Absolutely, yes. So thank you so much for your time
Thank you
and
for your time. Thank you
consideration.
for coming in.
And I'll be right
I
back.
appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll say off the record of this, thanks for what you folks did for me and my friend. It was, you were fabulous all of them.
You're welcome. You're so welcome.
Okay, Pemmy River, which is, I thought I recognized you guys from last year, so that's who I thought we had you in here. Good.
I just learned about this morning, so.
Well, thank you for being so responsive.
He's no-handed. But I've got solid backup. I'm armed. My name is Max Stamp. I'm the Bristol rep for Pemmy River Local Advisory Committee. Been doing it for a while, and I'm happy to say I think interest in the Pemmy and water quality on the Pemmy is growing. We now, as a group, are up in numbers somewhere around 18 or 19.
I think it's like 15 or 16, but.
Well, I just looked at the
membership.
Distribution.
This is people on your committee, you're saying?
I'm sorry?
Number of people on your committee?
Yes.
Okay, great.
We're expanding, partly due to Bill and the work he did. I think Woodstock is inclined to, if they haven't joined, they're about to, and Lincoln. They've ignored us for 20 years. And so that's a pretty good sign. And I think we usually meet in Plymouth at the library once a month, public invited. Happy to have any of you come and see what goes on there. So consider that an invitation.
We also put a Zoom link in too, so you can come online.
Okay, thank you.
In Bristol, I'm the only member right now, so if any of you know anybody that would like to get involved, please give me a call or give us a call. We'd like to fill that slot. We had Richard LaFawn was a member until probably middle of this year. So we don't like to get below 2. Water level this year in the Pemmy was kind of a major concern. You hear a lot of people talking about it. And that kind of goes along with some concerns we have in a few areas up along the river. For example, Owl's Nest is entertaining a considerable expansion of what they're into, and a lot of it involves probably more water out of the river. And that's become more of a concern with some of the people up in the northern part of the river. Thornton, Campton, Holderness, and so forth. They've got a big pond that is fed by the river, and we're planning more of that kind of thing. So that's on our pay attention list, and there's some discussion underway about concerns about, are they getting too much water out of the river? Other things that have been of interest to us this year, campground expansion up in Thornton. It's been an issue kind of thing because they're in the floodplain, they're doing some other things that we need to pay attention to some other obstacles about how they access the campground over the railroad bridge and some things like that. We continue to, when we quite often get my latest incident, I guess I would describe it as, I got a phone message saying, hey, there's somebody down on Penny Shores Road cutting down a lot of trees and obviously underway in terms of building a home. There were no permits either in Bristol. Christina didn't know about it, and DES never saw any request for permits there. So these are the kind of things that once in a while creep in that we have to take care of. That particular lot on Penny Shores Road, a lot of trees already down. And that's when we start to get really concerned, because that first 50 feet of shoreland is where we gotta keep trees in there to protect runoff, and runoff is a major problem. This year we had 2 teams, that hasn't changed, north and south. We were out 8 times doing water testing, each team, going through all of the concerns that usually are associated with water quality. I don't have this year's report. DES has problems in terms of help, and they have shortages of people and so forth, so we will get it, but I don't have it for tonight. Regarding water testing, that's a list of, that report, you can go through that and see the things that we take a look at. Rivers generally in very good condition. We do lab samples also, looking for E. coli, particularly in areas where it's active from a swimming standpoint and so forth. I think with the organization changes we've undergone this year, we may have missed sending you our request for money. That request is...
No, that request went out.
It did.
So in the table we have that you're requesting the same amount you requested last year. So we do have a request from you.
Okay.
Dated on September 9th.
Okay, good. I thought we missed that.
Nope, your man took care of it.
So we go to 8 sites, I just mentioned that, and we do all those things on that paper, plus we get the incidental phone call saying, hey, you ought to go look at this, something going on here. So with that,
okay.
Take on questions.
Well, I want to stress too, it's all volunteer. We do a lot of, we probably keep track of our volunteer hours, but we do site inspections and also the water quality testing. So it really is a team effort, and a lot of hours go into that. And you did mention the length of the territory that we oversee, but it's like starts in Franconia and then goes down to where the Merrimack, not the Merrimack,
The Penny into the Winnipesaukee, turn into the Merrimack.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we've had actually several opportunities to do site visits even in Franklin, which we rarely, if ever, have done before. Usually it's corresponded with tanks that are being removed from gas stations, or tanks being put into gas stations nearby. That's pretty much it for the territory.
No, it sounds like you do good work. I would guess, I don't know, actually, I would think that as far as Bristol goes, coordinating would mostly be with the Conservation Committee? Is that who you mostly work with?
Generally, yeah, or the select board.
Okay. And then when you find someone building something with no permit, you contact Christina.
Yeah.
who's on Zoom right now. I'm pointing at the screen because she's smiling.
Oh, she's up there, okay. Oh, yeah. They say good things about her. Okay.
She wants you to keep
She's
saying good things about her.
I stay on her good side.
All right.
Most of the time.
Voice too. So your costs are probably some of that as well.
I'm sorry, what was that, Christina?
I'm sorry, there's a delay, but I just wanted to remember to say that there are 2 open seats for Bristol.
Yes.
We have 3, and Mass has been the old one for quite a long time. Me and Richard was there for a little while, and we've solicited other boards, so if anybody's interested.
So some of your costs must be paying the state to do your analyses, right? You have to pay the state for your water sampling, or is it that program they fund?
No.
Water testing, not, you guys do the sampling, they do the testing.
Yeah.
We do the sampling, we use their instruments, they lend them. Lend us their instruments, we work with that mostly. In addition, we do lab sampling, looking for E. coli and things like that. The lab sampling, that's all bottled. That's gotta go down to DES in Concord.
Right.
And they foot the bill on that.
Right. Oh, they pay.
So.
That money goes toward generally administrative assistance from the Lakes Region Planning Commission. And, you know, they do a lot in negotiating, well, also working with DES, reviewing, we're actually right now, we're doing a new river management plan, and they're providing the expertise to do the update. So they find a way to extend it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Is Transport Central next?
What's that?
Is Transport Central next?
No, it isn't, but I can make it next.
Oh.
I was going to actually try to do, instead of just doing the list, I was going to ask the 2 people in the room to do their 2 groups. So since you're already at the table, why don't we do Transport Central, and then we'll do your group.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I am the Executive Director of Transport Central, and I was here last year as well. And just to start out, I'm not certain if you were looking at Penny Baker for a specific couple, maybe. I'm also concerned about a family in Bristol, a husband and wife, the gentleman has had really poor care lately after receiving very great care from a particular person who left for another job.
I guess I want to cut this off because I know that there's medical privacy laws and whatever. I'd rather, could you have this as a private conversation if you want to talk to one member about that, or am I missing something?
No, that's fine, but I wasn't gonna mention any names, obviously, so, but I'm thinking Penny Baker is a very valued association that, actually a person that works for Transport Central also is employed by Penny Baker Home Health and Hospice, or Hospice and Home Health. It's one big tight circle.
Yes.
So in any event, I've been executive director now for over a year, which was kind of surprising. And I bring to you, I think you have the actual request, the funding request. It's a cover letter.
You gotta call it up, but yes, I'm sure.
Is that the only paperwork you think you had, or do you have additional information as well?
Yep.
If you don't have it, I'd like to share with you the FY 2022 totals by town. These are the number of trips we made, the number of miles, and how many people we serve.
I didn't see that.
Let me go to the
Your
other.
tax return.
Yeah, we have a tax return.
Okay, you might have this as well then. This is.
I don't know if I see that.
Well,
We'd like to see it though.
Yes.
That would be my question. So. Lay it on us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good, thank you.
So this is.
And this is this year so far, year to date.
Yep. And what it shows is that Bristol actually kind of crept up since last year. And, you know, you're now doing, what is it? Okay, 22,000 miles, or almost 23,000 miles. 443 trips and 25 unique individuals. And if you kind of do the math on that, if the ask is $2,000 for your town, then it comes to about like 9 cents a mile that you know we offer the town, and it's more of a convenience for anyone that you know has an issue with transportation, and you know we don't ask any questions if they're greater than 60, if they are disabled, or if they're a veteran or someone in need. Actually Medicaid people as well will just offer transportation. The serious part that we're actually facing is we accommodate everybody that is that we're capable of doing. We don't refuse anybody. So the problem comes in with the fact of drivers. In fact, I don't want to be facetious, but I'm willing to like turn over the ask for 5 volunteers.
You need volunteers more than you need dollars at this point.
At this point, yeah, because we, in fact, especially this week, has been like a horror show for our trip coordinator. And, I'm kind of at wit's end because we have far too much volume than the people we have left to service it. We'll accommodate them. In fact, I'm doing, I don't know, like 6 trips this week, which, normally I shouldn't have to drive, but, I'll do whatever the company needs, so. But if anyone has a great idea of how to solicit drivers, I try all sorts of ways in different agencies to do that, but it's a really tough time, both for volunteers and paid drivers too, for that matter. But,
I hear you. I don't know what the answer is because you're, I think, at least the third group that's mentioned they could use, and I mean, one was just the Lakes Committee that you just also participated in, but there was somebody else earlier who was looking for more volunteers. So I don't know I don't know how to solve. But I hear you.
So anyway, are there any questions, or do you want me to explain more what we do, or?
Sure. So this is nonprofits tonight, so are you funded?
So they get federal
I was going to say
dollars too.
We get DOT funds.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they have like 5310 funds. So we get a certain amount by asking for DOT. They honor our ask, and then we just like keep on giving trips until we hit that metric. We also have a lot of like grants, or several grants, not a lot. One is from Plymouth, Spear Hospital. They're very generous, and any grant that I view that is worthy of like going after, like the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative also has community foundation funds, and so I try to approach as many as I can.
So is this the only organization that does this kind of thing in the area? This is totally
the only volunteer, yeah. We were assigned like 19 towns, and just hearing from like the home hospice and health, and that the fact that you can pick whatever you want. Well, no, it's this area is served by us.
Pretty good. Okay.
Yeah. And
that's a federal assignment.
It's a state designation.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, if we want to pick up a couple more towns, we can probably do that as well, as long as we're not interfering with another coverage area.
Right.
And it's basically initiated in those 19 towns. A person from like Alexandria can say, well, I need to go over to Boston, or, well, we don't really advertise it, but we'll do like Boston trips as well.
Yeah.
Usually it's like as far as like Dartmouth, or basically anywhere in the state or nearby.
All right, thanks.
So we approved 2,000 for you last year, and so you didn't even increase it of any kind.
No.
But have your gases, for like gasoline and all that stuff, I mean, has that affected you with the high rate?
So, yeah, but it basically has an effect on, someone who wants to volunteer to be a driver.
Yeah.
And we reimburse a driver based on IRS, accepted rate.
Right.
So that's not income. So, it was 55.2. And now it's like 62.5, so.
Yep.
And I don't know how long that's gonna last.
Right.
Well, I think it's probably gonna stay for a while because now gas is going up again.
It's going up, yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. So that's great, I mean, you haven't asked for an increase and you think you could do with that,
Yep.
So,
They're very good to their drivers.
I know, yeah.
They're very good to their drivers. My husband used to be a driver, and you're very good to the drivers.
Is your husband at all interested?
No, he's not.
So Carol, I heard the senior group talk about a bus. I would think that would be an alternative, and it not nearly as good as a service like this.
Sure.
I'll tell you what, actually, what I'm gonna try to do, and actually I almost have like a green light to do it, is there are federal funds, actually it's like CDC, Centers for Disease Control, have given, states money to both create a web and spoke of mobility managers.
Oh.
So mobility managers in the different counties will coordinate with each other and an oversight manager. And CDC gave these people this much money to do that, as well as several $100,000 over that. And that is being offered to different needy agencies like ours to, go forward with different projects. And what I'd like to do is coordinate with like the senior center vehicles, with actually mid-state vehicles. I mean, there's a lot of like vehicles that are pretty proprietary and, should be shared, or at least, given out for what's available in their cadre of vehicles, and we'll go ahead and have like an oversight manager that can actually, schedule these things. But that's something I'm working on. Hopefully I get funded.
So I'm just gonna, since this was something that was a bit contentious last year, just for your benefit, because you're new to the committee. So in the past, this organization asked for funding, which was basically a multiple of the number of trips.
$2 per ride.
So it was a multiple of the number of trips.
Okay.
So we were paying them roughly $400. And they showed up last year and they said they wanted $2,000. And we basically, and what you had said at that point was that you thought, you changed your funding formula so that it was basically now based on the population of the town into different buckets, and we were being over 3,000 people, we got into the $2,000 bucket, and that this would give you more resources to expand offerings. And we get into a little bit of a discussion about chicken and egg. Do we pay more money now? Future stuff. I was going to say that, so you can tell I still have a little fire in myself. Or do we wait for the increased services and then approve and Janet and Walter talked about that they know people who use this and it's very valuable, and the board as a whole voted to authorize the $2,000 request.
We've kind of had this conversation tonight already.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing you asked.
Same idea,
Same
yeah,
thing, right.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So the rest of us were all here. Carol was the only person who wasn't part of that last year. So I was happy that you brought this to show that services have gone up. I mean, they didn't go up from 4 to 20, but they went up. And we've heard from people on the committee who know people that I don't know that it's a very valuable service. So we do appreciate your I love your idea of trying to coordinate all these little buses that are doing like one-off to maybe get a little more juice out of the squeeze if you're coordinating, and maybe we can service some areas that aren't getting service now. But
true.
But I don't know how to help you with more volunteers. It sounds like that's your biggest.
Do you post for looking for volunteers? I mean,
Oh,
do you
yeah.
put it all over like the Shop and Save or Hannaford's? I mean,
Well, we
places
have,
like that.
all like, physicians' offices, generally they're all, and, like Lions Club, and,
Yeah.
we generally kind of like hit,
All of those.
yeah. And we have like a couple of pieces of pamphlets that we basically post on how to become a driver and call us if you need, a ride, so we try.
Okay.
We have more rides than Plymouth.
I know,
Total
isn't that
miles.
amazing?
Yeah.
Or total miles.
Total miles.
Well, I'm assuming Plymouth rides get shorter because they have a
Right.
hospital
We
there.
have, we have
That
less,
makes a big
we have
difference.
less trips than Plymouth, but we have more miles.
Good
But
point.
And
Yeah.
if you want to go to Spear, it's easier to do it from Plymouth.
And I'm assuming the Thornton one's a typo. I bet that's like 36 or something like that, not 936.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense
I'll have
with
to
the other
talk to
figures.
the person that made this report.
But it seems like, and I think this is what it was, about the second or third most serviced town
Yeah.
by this organization.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions, or I'm just kind of looking at the clock and seeing we still have some more groups to do, so.
And in terms of
I
miles,
don't want to
the
push
most
out the
served
door,
town.
but I want to
Yeah.
let you get home.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know what group you are, but let's get you going.
I'm Judy, I'm from the Bridge House.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
great.
I was out front, but I didn't know.
No, not a problem, not a problem,
So-
please, come on up.
And Kathy apologized.
Hey, I don't think we've met you before.
No,
so.
you haven't.
Okay.
So I work with Kathy Bentwood, and she apologizes that she's not here tonight. I think she said the last time she was here, she got teary-eyed, so she said maybe you won't miss that.
Last couple of times.
Thank you, right. I might cry, I don't know, we'll see,
She's
I'll
passionate.
continue on. Thank you so much. She is passionate. There you are, thank you so much. And our appropriation for the Bridge House is still the same, the $2,000 request. And I think a part of my handout, some of the words got cut off, but you will see that we did service in 2021 a Bristol resident for 38 days. And then in 2022, we serviced a resident from Bristol for 102 nights. And what we're really seeing at Bridge House for the homeless shelter is an increase in people coming in whose landlords are renovating and charging more rent, and they can't afford it. So we have people who've been good tenants for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and they can't absorb the increase in rents, and they're essentially getting evicted with no place to go. So the first person from Bristol who stayed the 38 nights, they were able to be maintain employment, working for the common man, and they were able to be reunified with a family member in Bristol. So that was a short stay. The person that stayed with us for the 102 nights was a little bit trickier because they have a criminal background. It was harder to get them housed, but we were actually able to keep their employment, allow them to keep their vehicle, and they were able to be housed through a referral through one of our case advocates at Bridge House. So they were able to just move to their own place on September 13th.
So you not only provide the housing, but the means to eventually exit.
Well,
the
that
housing
is
too.
the goal.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the goal. We did have a family during COVID that stayed with us for 3 years with a daughter, and they were able to find a rental unit maybe 4 months ago, but that is few and far between. We want to provide services, but everyone knows the housing market the way that it is, rentals that people are able to pay a year ahead of time, and people who can't afford to absorb the cost of paying more rents. Our shelter is full. For those of you who may not be aware, Bridge House did construct a 6-unit permanent supportive housing with HUD and New Hampshire Housing Development Funds. So that is on a Section 8 voucher, and we have full units that are, people were able to move in December of 2019. So those are full, and people who fill out the Section 8 applications can check Bridge House. It's a congregate living space. So we have our 20-bed shelter, we have the 6-unit New Hampshire Housing Development, and then we actually have a hospice space. So we actually just had a veteran who's 90 years old. He's recently widowed, and he had been staying at the Bridge House. He moved up to Boulder Point, which is a veteran housing behind Walmart in Plymouth. And when his wife passed, he came back to Bridge House with his dog, and he received services through Penny Baker Home Health and Hospice. And he's a 90-year-old Korean War veteran. So Bridge House continues its mission to support veterans. We still are only the only shelter in the state that accepts a veteran that comes in with their animal, their dog or their cat. We pay extra for insurance for that because at some points those are the only family these veterans have left from what we've seen. So our 90-year-old veteran has his dog Roxy that came into shelter with him, and he wants to stay in place and age in place with services. So I I don't know, do you have any questions? I'm not as good as this as Kathy is, and again, she apologizes she's not here tonight.
You obviously can, so we appreciate you coming down to talk with us.
So we still continue with the Bridge House with our community outreach. So our commitment is to all of Grafton County. We do not turn away veterans. If we have space, a couch, and we can house you, we will house you as a priority. But one of our other missions is to allow people to stay in their homes, especially families with children. So you'll see some statistics that got kind of cut off. I apologize. I think it was like 52 families that we served, 112 individuals total. I apologize, I got cut off with the photo. And Tricia Murphy is our community outreach worker. And she's able to provide services, connect with resources to allow people to be able to stay in their homes, connect them with fuel assistance, if they need, transportation, if they need vehicle repairs, and really able to keep children in their school districts and keep that stability for those families. So she continues to still do that. I actually work up at Boulder Point as well as at Bridge House. So again, along the lines of that commitment to the veterans, since COVID started, I have been going up to Boulder Point since March of 2020. There were no services provided by Harbor Homes at that time, or the VA, because they weren't sure what was happening with COVID. So you have 30 high-risk individuals who 80% of them are receiving VASH, like low-income subsidized housing, and then COVID hit and there's nobody coming up. So we actually, I volunteered to go up there in March of 2020, and I'm still going. And, we've had 5 deaths up there. People passing away behind closed doors. Alcoholism has been a major challenge. So, isolation through COVID is something that we want to fight as much as we can and provide supports for. Anyone who's struggling, families, veterans, and people that come into the shelter. So our age right now ranges, we have a single father with a 13-year-old daughter in the shelter, and our age range goes up to our 90-year-old Korean War veteran. So that's who we service right now, and our shelter budget is $500,000 to run a shelter. It's expensive, and we support the shelter with some funds through the state, about $70,000 a year for emergency shelter management. We do a lot of fundraising, private donations, and we have people that have stayed at the shelter who give us $10 a month faithfully. We run the community fun fair in July every year, and we try to raise $20,000, and we have a match from the TOSA Foundation for the additional $20,000. So we try to turn over every rock to support the shelter and the needs of the people that come in. We support the shelter mainly with the thrift shops that we run. I don't know if you guys are familiar with ladders or step ladders in Plymouth. And then we run flippin' furniture as well across from Walmart to support shelter operations, because we don't have any really large donors or a really large pot of money where it's all the little pots. So we did just apply through the Byrne Foundation to support my position at Boulder Point. So that's not coming out of Bridge House funds. And then so we can really socialize the guys up there and really have that sense of community. We're looking to do a woodworking shop down at Flippin' Furniture for their veterans to create their own pieces, to have something to connect to do something with their hands. We all want to feel capable and viable and, that sort of thing. And even if it's not work, to be able to just go down the hill and be able to produce something is a big factor in mental health, I think, for everybody. So I don't know. That's that in a nutshell. I don't know.
That's good. Yeah. Wow.
Any questions? I think we know that Bridge House does good work, so I don't think we have a lot of questions.
Okay. I think they do good work too, but I'm biased, so. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, if I ever have to come back now, I know the ropes.
Yeah. I think that was a little confusing when before the meeting started. We said amongst ourselves, do we want? And I said, well, let's not leave people out in the lobby, bring them in. And then Christina said, when we sent them the invitation, we told them to wait in the lobby. So we were a little mixed.
Well, and I wasn't familiar with the room, so I didn't know if I should. Anyway, we got to sort it out. So I appreciate you.
We're a pretty friendly town. Just stick your head in. It's not a problem.
My grandparents. I grew up in New Hampton, but my grandparents were the Robert and Elsie Day. My grandpa was.
Oh, sure.
Police chief, and he was a crossing guard here in bright orange tennis shoes and things. So I'm familiar, and I love Bristol. So.
All right. Well, thank you for
thank you guys
coming,
so much.
and thank you for
Appreciate
your time.
it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
There's nobody in the lobby, right?
No, we're gonna
Check
check
the
out.
back.
So
We have one or two people
we have
on
two-
board.
we have two people on
Let me
Zoom.
scooch out.
Yep, we'll
Thank
let
you
you
so
know.
much, guys. Have a great night.
So we have two people on Zoom. Meg, do you wanna, what group are you with? And let's go ahead and talk with you.
Sure, although I know I'm always the end of the list because I'm Voices Against Violence. So
Okay.
if maybe wanted to go first, I could wait.
Don't see you.
You're fine, Meg.
Meg, I picked you because just looking at the board, it looks like you called in sooner, so I figured I'd let you go now. And then Amy will be last. So you're not last this year. Go ahead, Meg.
Oh, boy. Well, first, I want to thank you so much for this ability to remote in. And I want to apologize for this year not being there in person. Maybe this is TMI, but I seem to be fighting a kidney stone. So,
Oh, that can be really
Yeah.
painful. I hope you're all right.
oh, goodness. So thank you for that. So I'm with Voices Against Violence, and we're actually celebrating our 40th anniversary this year of serving the communities. And for anybody who doesn't know, although you're probably all aware, we're the local crisis center that works with survivors of domestic and sexual violence, stalking, human trafficking, bullying. A couple of years ago, we expanded the number of towns that we served. Although Bristol has always been part of that, when very suddenly the crisis center that was at Littleton closed down, and the surrounding crisis centers took on those towns. So traditionally, Bristol is usually the second largest number of people that we work with in all of the towns that we serve. And for this last year, as you can see by the handout that I had mailed in, we had 54 people that we worked with for 244 service hours. And then gives you a little more information about some of the work that we did. We run a 24-hour crisis line, although we have to change the name of that because we always say you don't have to be in crisis to call. Anytime people need support, we're always there. We have a confidential shelter that we run that's open to anybody who is a survivor and their families. Thanks to a CARES grant that we got during this awful pandemic, we were able to switch it from just this combined housing, which if you think of people at the worst point in their lives and we're in such trauma, then all getting thrown in together with strangers to live, we were able to switch into separate units, which has just been phenomenal for us. But in addition to the hotline, the confidential shelter, anytime there's a sexual assault at the hospital, they come and we're there to support the person, whether it's through a rape kit, whatever they choose to do. The hospital, the court will always call us when somebody comes in for a restraining order, so we can be there just to help them understand the process. Anytime there's a child advocacy center interviews, we go to that. So there's a whole range of things that we do. We're free and confidential, usually serve between 700 and 800 individuals every year. That's the really quick overview. I don't know if you have some specific questions for me about Voices and the work we do.
This last year was 54 victims in the town of Bristol. Has that been pretty steady for Bristol, or is that different than past?
That's an excellent question. It's fairly steady for us. It was really scary for us during COVID because when everything shut down in March, everything went silent. We were so afraid because we work with a number of people that we fear for their lives. And all of a sudden people, because in the domestic violence arena anyway, they were all inside their homes with no way to reach us, with no way safely to get a hold of us. And then what we saw is we made a lot of changes to work hybrid and remote. We have this new confidential way of having people be able to text us and web chat and all of that. And then all of a sudden our crisis line numbers doubled. So our numbers have been sort of all over the place in some ways, but Bristol has always stayed fairly consistent for us.
Anything else?
You said Bristol was your second most at the beginning, or was I incorrect in hearing that?
Most years, and I'd have to go back and check exactly for this last year, but usually every year we have the most number of people we serve in Plymouth, and then Bristol is second.
Okay, so you must have a lot of towns. If your total is 713 and we're only 54 victims, you must have a lot of towns. I'm sorry, I'm speaking from a lack of knowledge here.
No, absolutely. We have 21 towns.
Okay.
And the other thing that we do, that's a program that's been in the last couple of years, is with housing for people. So we work with survivors to try to fund them transitional housing. We have a couple of different housing programs. And as you all know, it's gotten much more difficult to find housing for people. And a lot of times once they find out there's domestic violence, we have some landlords who just don't want to deal with it, who don't understand the issues. A lot of times that we can come in as a support person for them, they're a lot more willing to reach out and entertain an individual or a family living in their units. We've really seen an increase, and I think this is statewide, but probably also nationally, has been an increase in the need for mental health services for survivors as it is for everybody else. And so that's another area where we've been taking more of our funds to try to support people who are in desperate need of mental health and just don't have any other options for paying for those services. I know a question in the past has been, do we serve male survivors? And we serve everyone. And we always have a number of people who identify as male who we work with, and our shelter is set up in a way that if we have a male survivor, we can also have them in our shelter as well.
Do you just, I shouldn't say just, that's not the right word, but if a call comes in for abuse that's happening, comes into the police, do you get involved right away with the police, or do you get involved like after the fact when the immediate crisis is that the combatants are separated and then you can help the person who needs the help?
Again, another great question. In part, it depends upon the police department. We have some that work a lot more closely with us, but there's something called a LAP protocol, lethality assessment protocol. And so anytime police respond to a domestic violence where they suspect there's a higher chance of lethality, and they have this whole checklist they go through to see if that's the case. If it's higher, what they do is they call us and they put the person on the phone with us. That may not always mean that they'll follow through with us, but the best practices statewide out of the Attorney General's office is that when there's that higher lethality due to possible strangulation, threats, weapons, whatever it is, that the police are supposed to immediately put that survivor on the phone with us.
Okay, so what I was really thinking is that you're probably a valuable resource to the Bristol Police Department and Chief McIntyre and his staff when they have to deal with this. You are available to help them.
We absolutely are, and we always try with all the police departments to let them know that we're there solely to support them, to try to not take something off their plate, that's not the right way of saying it, but to try to work along with them so that we can help move people along in the process and support them and help them to understand and work more closely with the police as well.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Meg, thank you so much for being patient and for sharing your time and giving us the information.
Oh, thank you so much, and again, thank you so much for letting me Zoom in tonight. I really.
You're welcome.
All right, no problem. Hope you're feeling better. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Amy.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hi.
And I would like to thank you as well. As you can hear in my voice, you probably wouldn't want me there.
You're probably, yes.
I am from Tri-County Community Action.
Yep.
And I am the Strategic Initiatives Director for the agency. As many of you know, we've been offering services since 1965. We offer about 16 different programs throughout Coas County, Carroll County, and Grafton County. And in Bristol, we served this past year 209 individuals with a total value of those services of $172,356. One of the reasons why we as an agency need to ask towns, and we ask all the towns, is because we receive grants, federal funding, but in order to receive those larger amounts of funding to provide the millions of dollars worth of services throughout the 3 counties, we need to have unrestricted funds. That's where the municipal funding comes in. And they're called match dollars. So we need to match a certain percent in order to get the money to provide the, as I said, billions of dollars of services. And as you are aware, the cost of energy is skyrocketed, if you will. We have a lot of concerns for the different towns and their citizens. We expect numbers to go up, but we have what's needed to provide whatever number goes up. For Bristol, the majority of the numbers I shared are taking advantage of the fuel assistance and electric assistance. We also provide weatherization, and I intend to think that those numbers are going to go up this year as well. One of the other areas that Bristol is homeless, we did have someone access our homeless shelter, and we also received several 211 calls. Whether we provide the services to those calls or if we connect with community partners to get them the help that they need. We base our request so that it is fair and equitable across all counties and all towns. We do formulate that off from the census. And last year we based it off an estimated 2019 population. And of course, now that we have the 2020 census, that is what we're going to base off of going forward. And our ask this year is slightly, because of that population change, but not dramatically. We are asking $6,488. Last year, I believe it was 62.
Correct.
And so it hasn't changed dramatically with change in population. The other thing I want to share too is that we also have the rental assistance program that goes through Tri-County Community Action. Many of those numbers I can't share because the state, you can access them through the state and we're not allowed to add them to our stats. But the rental assistance program is there for everyone. And so if anyone is in need, anything tied to COVID that they're having trouble paying their rent, we do have that program that people do receive services through and support. Any questions?
No, I think you've been doing this, your organization's been doing this for a while, and we are familiar with your services, and I don't think we have questions. No.
Well, we really appreciate your continued support and the opportunity we have to serve in your community and being part of your community. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Have a good night, and thanks for calling in. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you. I do too.
And I think it's also important to note, I think it was 3 years back, Tri-County Capital essentially reworked their funding formula, and it was actually to the benefit of Bristol at that time. I think when I started on this committee, I want to say our total contribution was above $8,000 at one point, and now it's at this $6,400. Just, I think that puts this into context.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Great.
you.
So I'm pretty sure there's no one in the lobby and there's no one else on the computer, but just, we didn't hear from CASA, and we didn't hear from Lakes Region Visiting Nurses Association. So I think everyone else, and we didn't hear from Day Away, but they're in hiatus for the moment, so we didn't really expect to hear from them.
Were we supposed to have Tapley Thompson here tonight?
They come at a different night.
They do, even though.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have they're a separate thing, and because they have their own essentially line in the budget,
Right.
they come a separate night. And they give us a whole 8-page packet that goes along with that.
Right.
This was an education.
Yeah.
For the first time.
It was new, yeah, it was very interesting.
Well, I think I
First time
certainly want to hear from Lakes Region
Yes.
Visiting Nurses
I do too.
Association.
Yes.
So if you can forward some questions on our behalf to them,
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful if you could get back to us. I'm really interested on their side of the story about.
Well, I think I'll start off like this, ask them,
Territories.
why they can come and invite them to, but that Penny Baker did come and that we're a little confused and can they come and answer some questions.
Only put your name under confused.
I'll admit to that. I'll admit to that. All right, you want me to say I'm confused instead of we're confused? I got it.
Is it because they're busier than ever and couldn't handle it? Is because their staffing has changed in Bristol? I have a lot of questions that I wish they were here to answer.
Right, I'm assuming one of the things I'll definitely ask them for is their number of clients and service hours, are they steady? Are they going up? Are they down? Are they having problems with hiring people so that they're basically maxed out, or what's the situation?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
So, you may not know this, so are any of these organizations or all of them statutorily created by the federal government, or are they all organizations that grew up organically in the communities?
None of these, a number of them might be funded, but none of them are creatures or subsidiaries of the federal
They
government.
don't have to exist
They do not have.
by statute.
Correct.
Interesting.
But many of these organizations are heavily supported by our town employees. Like the police chief, for example, has spoke very favorably of Lakes Region mental health and how important they are into essentially limiting the amount of officer hours that go into those particular cases.
Last year,
Yeah.
he basically told us that if we, I mean, he said it in a nice way, but he basically said that if we didn't fund them and they went away, his costs would go up by way more than what the funding they're asking for.
Right. Well, it's interesting, it seems like, it's interesting how they, I don't know, how they all have a different way to figure out what they're asking for, but it seems like the value of some would make their number higher and or lower to what I just heard, but it's however they choose to do it.
We'll get into it later when we get into that part of the budget.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that, I guess for me, one of the things is that most of them, I think all of them except the municipal association basically are, here's our request. If you have a problem, at least give us something.
Right, yeah.
The municipal association is the only one that basically says, here's the bill, you have to pay it. Or take a hike.
Okay.
Well, I was just confused though about the Penny Baker, not that they're not a bad, they're probably a great organization, it's not that. It really isn't, it's just that they're stepping into an area where it's like they see an opening, well, that's how I'm thinking, and now they're going to say, well, we're gonna now try to service your area. That's how I was looking at that, because does that mean our nursing association is doing less, or is it just enough?
Right, and
because working in the nursing area, we always would go to the general one who was in the area, which is, she's right, as far as that they were, well, go to Lakes Region because they're the ones that are well known.
Mm-hmm.
But as a patient carer, you're asking them, would they be comfortable, do they want to go there, or do they want us to find another one? So it was always an option to go anywhere else. It wasn't like they had to go to them no matter what. That's not true as far as that goes. And they didn't probably want to step on their toes a little bit. I understand that there's a respect factor, but if the patient just didn't want you or just want that other organization, that's how it went.
I think we do definitely need, I mean, we just talked about, we need the information from Nana
We
about
do.
what they are now.
Absolutely do.
My concern is not that Penny Baker does bad work. I think we know they do
Oh,
good work.
absolutely.
But if we're gonna start having multiple organizations in
Right.
here, it becomes less efficient. Now you gotta pay for multiple administrations. You're not
Exactly.
just paying for the care, you're paying for the office.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we don't control that, but I certainly don't want to encourage multiple providers where they're all gonna come and ask us for money.
But I certainly want hospice
I
patients
cer-
in the town of Bristol to have care.
I certainly
in
want
that
that if
time
I'm
of
getting
need.
discharged from the
There's no doubt
hospital
about
and
that.
they tell me I need health care, that somebody says, yes, we'll send the nurse to take care of you, Paul.
So is
Nana was such an excellent part of our community for over 50 years. And now the services provided have been curtailed.
Okay.
They've been reduced. They aren't as good as they were because of many reasons. But it's not local people doing it anymore. Before it was neighbors taking care of neighbors. And it's not that any longer.
Did they come too big? They got too big? Is that what it is? Because they changed?
I think people try to
What are we doing?
make things bigger. Instead of having small groups, they try to make it bigger.
You're the end of the
Service isn't what it was when it was your neighbor taking care of you. I've had service from Nana and it was very nice.
Yep.
And I've heard some very severe questions recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm blessed that I don't need visiting nurse, so I don't know anything about that, but I appreciate your sharing, Walter, because that's important to know.
So is it that there's more people that need services, or like you said,
That's what we need to find out.
is Nana down in numbers because
Right.
whatever reason, so other people have to jump in and fill
Yes.
that out.
I don't know, but I wrote down that I will go get some
Yeah,
of
because
those
that's a
answers and-
$7,600 thing.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Right, so would Nana be
Yeah.
down $7,600? I know it's not that simple. I
No,
know,
it's not
but,
that,
you know,
no, but
Yeah.
that we've not paid and that's on the budget.
All right, so it's after 8 o'clock. Let me go through the rest of the agenda. So the next item on the agenda is correspondence. The only correspondence I have received was actually a note from Sue saying she's gonna miss the next meeting. She's out of town, out of state, I
I'm out of
believe.
town, yep.
I need to check, unless I got an email in the last 2 hours, I don't know what happened to Rob. I was expecting him, so I don't know. And then today I got a correspondence from Christina asking about how to handle minutes and whatever, so I've talked to her about that and we're all set with that. Next thing is.
Oh, I got a comment about correspondence.
Okay, so the next item is member comments, so
How
how
do
do
you
we
like that?
go right into that?
So I'm not a big Facebook person at all.
Yeah.
And half the time I don't get service where I live. Just per chance, I looked at Facebook this week.
Yeah.
And found out that this meeting and the select board meeting are now being recorded and they're live. I thought the first meeting we had, we talked about not depending upon Facebook, that we would have gotten a letter, something through email saying that, I mean, we walked in here, nobody knew we were live.
No.
And I thought we talked about this the first meeting, so did you not get any?
I did not get anything. It came up at one point early in the meeting where I said something about that go to the website and look at it, and Charlie turned and said, but we're streaming, and you said, yes, we are now streaming, I think.
Yeah, we are.
So
Yeah,
I found out about it during the meeting now.
Okay, yeah,
so.
I was just very surprised that,
The select board made the decision to make the change. I guess, Christine, I hadn't thought about notifying all the other committees and organizations, and it probably would be a good idea to do that.
Should
to
have
let
been
everybody
a
know-
good idea.
To let everybody know there's a change in the way we're doing it.
I think it's only gonna affect the budget committee and the select board, those are the only two that are reporting.
Right.
I think the reason that the board made that decision was because there was equipment that was not working properly, and Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, we purchased a piece of new equipment that allows for the live streaming now, and the select board approved for that to go through.
That's correct. We're essentially starting to move away from relying on the cable access channel for media storage and broadcast, and we're moving towards online production, basically.
okay, that was just.
So I guess what I would say is you say you don't go on Facebook often. I don't even have a Facebook account. So.
Oh, jeez!
Well, right, but that's not where you're gonna see it.
So.
Kate, can you?
So that's what I was gonna say.
As opposed to me explaining, could you explain a little bit better for us?
I posted on the town's Facebook page that the meetings would now be live streamed, as the select board was aware that we were good to go with that, and I informed them that I was gonna start. As far as the accessibility of the videos from the town's website goes, nothing has changed. The only difference is that now the videos are hosted on YouTube rather than Vimeo, which is where they used to live when I was not live streaming them.
Yeah, you don't need to go to Facebook to see them.
No, Facebook is only where the announcement was made.
Got it.
But you need to go to YouTube, correct?
So if I want to.
But the town site links you there.
Oh, it does.
Where the video is stored.
Right, so I just want to clarify, if I were not in the meeting and I wanted to watch it while it's being streamed, I would go to the town's website and find a link there and click on it, and it would take me to the stream.
Yeah.
And if it's after the meeting, I go to the town's website and look at an archived video file and call it up and watch the meeting.
So
Is that correct?
The best thing to do would be to go straight to the town's YouTube channel, and I can make sure that a link to that exists on the website, and that there's information on the website that both the select board and the budget committee meetings are being broadcast that way.
That would be appreciated, that's a great idea.
And Gabe, you've done a fabulous job. I love the Bristol buzz. You have a nice way of wording things. I'm very happy with what I get. And the first thing I look at is when I get my email from the Bristol Buzz. Check that out. Yeah, I think he's doing a great job.
Walter, any member comments?
The more government is open and visible to the public, the more readily they can see it, the better government will be.
Okay.
And I think also in a town like this, the better chance we have people filling positions too. for the town when we need people. Your committee after committee has gone through downsizing. The budget committee's gone through it.
Yep.
Planning board is the most recent one. Was it zoning that downsized?
Planning board downsized on, the warrant article a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Conservation Commission fixed their membership and downsized last year, or this year, in March.
So I agree with you, Walter. It's not only a good idea to inform the public of what's going on, but also to get people involved in government too, so they can sit in these seats.
Sue, any comment you want?
No.
Charlie? And so also select board, so is there anything going on with the select board that we should know or that you want to share?
Yeah, we're kind of in the same time frame that we're in this committee here. We're just getting our initial sort of broad brush approaches from everyone. We haven't, so no, nothing of any consequence.
So
I'm not getting my knee replaced. I'm canceled that, so I will be here for November 15th and onwards, so.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
So our next meeting,
Don't we have minutes?
yeah, but I was just gonna follow up with select board comments. So the question I wanted to ask was, our next meeting in 2 weeks, we're supposed to receive the select board recommended budget.
Yep.
So
We have that.
I mean, I know it's available, but it's easier to ask you, when is the select board meeting that you're gonna have that conversation, in case any of us actually wanna go to a select board meeting?
Or watch it on YouTube.
Or watch it on YouTube.
Let's see if I'm right, Christina. We had to change at
You too.
October 17th at 5 o'clock.
That's the first one, yeah. It's a budget.
For budget or just for select board?
This is a select board meeting, but they're gonna talk about the budget.
Right.
So if you get
So we
nothing,
can go?
if you have nothing to do as a member of the public, you can always go to the
Wait a
meeting.
minute. As a member of the public.
That's why I'm asking. I'm actually thinking I could go.
I wasn't listening. So when is that?
There's a second one, Christina?
So the Monday, October 17th is a budget work session. It's not a public, your public can come, but it's not,
No comment.
No comment, yeah.
Right, just sit in the back and listen.
And then
And I'm sure that they would take comment if there was any concerns. And then the second part of that work session where they'll finalize their final votes is Thursday and that is
3 o'clock.
October 20th at 8 o'clock.
Okay? And that's here in room A, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And just a heads up, select board work sessions are not on YouTube. Only
They're
public
not
sessions.
recorded, right?
Okay, thank you, Kate. All right, so I think that's it for comments. Staff comments? Anything you want to say, Christina?
I just let you know that I've hired a replacement. So my replacement, we haven't set a start date, but the good news is there's an assessing land use manager who will be starting hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And we have an offer out on the land use officer position, so fingers crossed, depending on what the board decides on Monday, so.
Okay. Excellent. I don't see it on the agenda, but we should have approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
Under old minute, old business?
New business, old business. Oh, I skipped over it. I wanted to correspondence. I'm sorry, old business.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
So review and approval of the minutes. So we have a draft set of minutes that were sent out. I read them, but I wasn't at the meeting, so I didn't have any comments or.
I believe Rob opened up the meeting and, let's do this for me. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from, when was it?
Well, there's just one word.
September 27th, I believe.
September 27th,
There's a word,
2022.
there's a word that actually needs to be.
Yeah, I have to do this, we'll get there, we'll get there.
The problem is, before we discuss, we should have a
That's why I
motion and a
stopped myself,
And I corrected those on my end, is that all
Okay, so I'll make a motion
So
to approve the
I got-
minutes from
I got a
September
motion from
27th.
Charlie, I think I got a second from Sue.
Okay, yeah.
So we have a motion on the table.
So,
Corrections? Or
yeah, I believe Rob Glassett was the one to open the meeting.
And close it.
Yes.
No, I might have made the motion to close the meeting. I think I did make the motion to close the meeting, but Rob made the motion to open the meeting. Because he was acting as
He called-
chair.
Right, that's when I
For that
saw
meeting.
your name, I was surprised.
Yeah,
'cause it
no,
was
I
supposed to
didn't.
be Rob.
Yeah, Rob opened that meeting. I did make the motion to close the meeting though.
All right.
Because we were going really long.
I read the minutes more for content, and I didn't see anything that jumped out at me. I think that there was a comment that there might have been some typos or something, so if, I don't know how many of those have already been corrected, that was what
I've
Christine
already
had said to
done
me.
quite a few at the beginning before we started, so.
And I gotta say, that's unlike you. But Buckland was spelled wrong, which I was surprised at. And Jenna.
Does working
And
now?
chair was your easiest one, the chair.
It
looks like
I'm
a
not
typo.
right. Even after dealing with 2 houses, a family debacle, and 30 jobs, I am back to the.
So guess what? We've all been there. Wait a minute.
I had a very bad day when I did that, apparently.
Okay, so are
Do
there?
you have anything else? You do?
Any-
Okay.
That's what I was gonna
That's what I
ask.
asked.
Any other corrections or,
No.
okay, so I'd like to call for a vote to approve the minutes of September 27th as amended. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. I got 6, so I don't have to ask for no's or
Yeah.
abstentions. Did anyone want to bring up a discussion about the bylaws or any discussion or questions about the revenue or expense reports that we've received? I don't.
I'm still happy of keeping the bylaws in place. I don't see anything.
I don't see any reason to change
I
anything. I was
reviewed them
gonna bring it
again.
up, but since it was asked and then the minutes, the bylaws were distributed to everyone for a chance to look at,
Yeah.
I want to give an opportunity that if anyone does want to make a suggestion, I think at this point, if anyone wants to make a suggestion to change the bylaws, what I'm going to ask is to get back to me with your specific request for what you want changed. I'll coordinate with Christina to make sure it would be legal, and if it is, I'll then distribute it to the entire committee so that people have a chance to look at it and think about it before they show up in a meeting and have to vote.
Yep.
Okay? So if you want a bylaw change, make a specific proposal and send it to me, and then I will shepherd it through the process.
So I have a question that
Go ahead.
I should know the answer, but I don't. Budget committee never goes into executive session. And I find it difficult, well, since I've been on, we've only gone in once. I find it difficult, especially if we're streaming now, to actually give my honest opinion because someone listening doesn't know the whole story.
Right.
So if I say your department sucks, we're live. Now, select board can go into executive session. Can we?
I know we can because when I came to the meeting in November of 20 and said I was volunteering to join the committee for the open position, Charlie took the meeting into executive session and you sent me out to the lobby while you guys could talk about it. So I know we can.
There are RSA stated reasons, and one of the RSA stated reasons is personnel.
So I don't know if we can go into executive session simply because we want to, but we can go into executive session if we have a valid reason.
Yeah, so it has to be under one of the stated reasons of the RSA.
Do you know what RSA number you're talking about? No.
No, the only time since I've been on the committee that we went into is personnel matters, and I think we've done it twice now for personnel matters.
It is a pretty limited amount of topics that you can do in executive session. And as Walter said, you shouldn't be afraid to say things on the camera or when people are out. If you've got something to say, it is transparency. If people in town need to know it, throw it out there. I mean, if somebody doesn't like what you said, well, too bad. I mean, it's better to.
I've already had repercussions.
And I think
it's definitely better to put things.
You've already had what?
I think it's
repercussion.
Any of the committee members. I think the polite thing to do is also to not name someone, but name their position.
Well,
as this is standard practice of how we operate.
This
Sure.
is such a
Yeah,
small
absolutely.
town, you don't even have to say that.
Right.
Right?
So actually I want to stop for a second. Christina has something she wants to say.
I just wanted to let you know there are specific reasons you can dismissal, promotion, compensation of a public employee, hiring of any person as a public employee. Matters, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Acquisition, sale, or lease, consideration or negotiation of pending claims of litigation, and consideration of matters related to the preparation for and carrying out of emergency functions. So those are just a brief headlines. I'd be happy to share. We have a document we use for non-public sessions, and I'd be happy to share that with the chair. But it tells it gives like a roll call vote, tells you how to go into non-public session and what reasons you can go into it for.
And any member can make a motion to go into a non-public session. It
but
doesn't have to be the chair
But
initiated.
to address your concerns, I guess I want to say two things. One is that even before now, where we're live streamed, we've always been recorded. So
Right.
people can always go back and look
Oh,
at
yeah.
whatever comments we make. I agree with Carol. I mean, maybe if you're concerned or you've gotten some grief from some citizens, you want to try to say it in a polite manner. So instead of saying you suck, you say I have concerns with your behavior. But I mean, you
Where have you been all my life? My husband would be cheering you on.
But I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is I want to encourage you not to censor yourself, to not say something that you think needs to be said that would help the committee to come to a better decision.
Okay.
I'm not saying you
No,
can't
I
struggle to
understand
find
what you're
polite
saying.
ways to say you suck.
Yeah.
But you should still, if you have concerns, please continue to speak up, is what I'm saying.
I have talked to a couple of department heads and voiced my concern that, okay.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
And the other thing was revenues, and what else did you have listed there?
Well, we got a report on revenues, so we didn't get a budget, but we got an expense basically
Right.
report.
Right.
So how is spending going against the budget? It doesn't talk anything about next year, it just talks about how this year is doing the budget.
And to get you back up, we did talk about this somewhat at last meeting.
Yeah.
And we are essentially everything's on track. Revenues are on track. Expenses are on track for what they should be at this time of year.
Okay.
I'm a little concerned about the expenses, but we'll see how it
But-
all shakes out.
For what we budgeted.
Yeah,
We're not gonna overspend budgeted lines.
The problem that I have is that as a citizen, I am concerned. As a budget committee member, it's not our job to manage the budget. It's the select board's job to manage the budget. So I like asking the questions because I learn things, but I keep reminding myself, it doesn't really matter what I think. I don't get to make that decision. I can't tell Bob to stop spending money.
So, okay, back it up. Why are we here then?
'Cause
We
we-
always rubber stamp the select board.
Because we talked in the first meeting about challenging ourselves to be, at least in my mind, I thought we did, because that's what I was thinking, to be less, I mean, I don't want to be prickly and I don't want to be a jerk about it, but I want to be a little more challenging this year. I think we were.
rubber stamp.
We were kind of a rubber stamp last year,
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
So, we talked about, at the last select board meeting about where the expenditures are, and any of them that happen to strangely pop up and stand out had reasonable explanations for that. That didn't mean it was gonna continue through the whole year, but for some reason it was at that point now. So I think as far as where we are on how we've expended to this point, we're in good shape, really. Overall, how's that?
For the shape we're in.
For the
shape we're in, there we go.
All right, so we're done with staff comments. Is that a true statement, Christina?
The only comment on that is Paul, whatever changes you make to the budget committee bylaws, I just recommend that we run them by the town's attorney so that they can make sure that there is nothing changing that could cause any issues.
No, I agree, I don't, maybe it didn't come over Zoom. What I said was that
Yeah.
if any committee member wants to propose a change to the budget, to the bylaws, that they should send a detailed proposal to me. I'll get together with you and we'll confirm whether it's legal or not. And then if it is legal, it can get presented to the committee.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. I think that's it. So I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?